known for years into a single place where you can actually meet them in person. And that's the case here. I'm being joined by Tom Knapp. Welcome, Tom.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going great. Now, you're involved in so many different projects that it would take pretty much the entire segment to list all of them. Like, the main one I know you from is probably going to be the William Lloyd... What? I've already forgotten the name.
It's the William Lloyd Garrison Center for Libertarian Advocacy Journalism.
Right.
Which is a very big name for me and one other guy writing op-eds that we submit to newspapers to try to get a libertarian viewpoint into your old-style newspapers who are slowly dying. And they like free content, and we like getting a libertarian message out. So
awesome. Well, you also are involved in the Rational Review, which is a subscription that I've been, subscribed to for 4 or 5, 6 years now, where you aggregate content from all over the internet and you give them new headlines that are more accurate to what the story is actually saying than what Fox News chose to call it or what MSNBC chose to call it. And to me, that's always been one of the best parts of the Rational Review, is seeing how you guys rewrite the headlines to be more accurate.
We try. The mainstream media will use the government's language for what the government did, and so no, it's not a settlement. It's a bribe.
Yeah.
To the regulators. It's not we seized this, it's we stole this.
Right.
Things like that. I'm very proud of Rational Review News Digest because it is the oldest daily email roundup of news and commentary for libertarians. It goes all the way back to 1991 when it started as LiberNet.
Okay, that's a long history.
Yes.
That's like 30 years.
I started working on it in 94, 95. By then, a site that no longer exists called freemarket.net was doing it. They called it Freedom News Daily, and they bought LiberNet out and incorporated it. Then they went bankrupt, so I and some of the other people who worked on Freedom News Daily started Rational Review News Digest the day after the bankruptcy happened, and we all came to work and couldn't work.
Right.
And then when they went bankrupt, they sold all their assets, and the International Society for Individual Liberty bought Freedom News Daily and published for a couple of years, and then came to us and said, would you guys just do it? So we actually published 2 newsletters. They're the same newsletter. One's called Rational Review News Digest, and one's called Freedom News Daily. It's the same content, just 2 different labels that go out to different lists. And we've been doing that since 2002.
I know, that's the best way for me to stay up to date on what's actually going on with the world, is that, each morning at about 7 a.m. or so, I receive an email from Rational Review just showing the most pertinent of the last 24 hours of news stories. There's usually about 30 of them. Then there's a bunch of, actually, I guess there's close to about 20 news stories, and then about 20 opinion pieces, and then podcasts and videos. So it's a lot of content for you and 1 or 2 other people to consume and digest and present to people in a simple and easy to digest way.
Well, it's down to 2 of us. It started out as 4 of us doing the content and 1 guy helping with tech support. But people retired and died. And
sure.
Our criterion is, will libertarians find this interesting? So not like the opinion pieces, they aren't all libertarian pieces. There's left-wing and right-wing stuff, but maybe it's on a controversial topic that's, here's what this leftist thinks, or this conservative, that the...
I know when I followed it most closely, there was a lot of Scott Adams being included. I think that's his name, the guy who created Dilbert. And he's still got a lot of really good content, but, he's certainly not a libertarian, but it is interesting content for a libertarian.
Well, we're down to 2 people, myself and Steve Trenward, and Steve is a big Scott Adams fan.
Okay.
Me, not so much. And for a while, he was really, every morning he was putting in Scott Adams' podcast. We still do occasionally.
Okay.
I don't know if he got bored with it. I got bored with it kind of quickly. But yeah, we'll run, in our list of podcasts, we'll have the day's episode of The Tom Woods Show. Almost always, every day, Free Talk Live, the previous night's show, will have the link to the MP3.
I see that. I appreciate that, by the way. That's awesome.
Oh, you guys sponsored us once, a little donation and stuff, but it's just my favorite. It's the only radio show I listen to, talk radio.
Okay. I think it's about the only one I listen to as well. I mean, I've never really liked sitting around listening to podcasts and stuff like that because there's usually something more productive I can be doing.
Well, I'm covering 10 to 15 podcasts a day.
Yeah, that's
and
monumental.
I listen to Free Talk Live, and then maybe I pick one other and listen to the whole thing while I'm working.
Okay, that makes sense.
I couldn't possibly listen to all the podcasts I cover. I just look at them, and libertarians are going to be interested in this. It's Dave Smith, or it's some of the other podcasts, National Review, conservative podcasts, but maybe they're on an interesting topic.
Okay.
And that's just what we do. Steve and I is every day.
Do you still occasionally argue with each other in the editor's notes?
We kind of cut back on that because some of our readers, whichever side of the arguments they are on, we're tired of watching you guys pick at each other. I just kind of cut. Usually, if we're arguing, it's because he put in an editor's note that I disagreed with, not vice versa. He hardly ever argues with me.
Okay.
But I see something, and I'm like, Steve, you're wrong, and here's why. And
see that, but that gave it so much character and so much more motivation for people to subscribe. I mean, that was the way I felt about it. At least I guess I'm in the minority, but I enjoyed it.
Well,
I thought it was
I'm glad we
interesting.
have a fan.
Yeah.
It
was like, here's the updated, more accurate headline, and here's the two editors having it out about what the article actually says, and it's like perfect.
I enjoy it. I still enjoy it and I guess I've been working on it for almost 20 years, including the previous editions. It's not the thing that I make the most personal money from, but it's probably the thing I spend the most time on it. We hardly ever miss a day. Even if we miss an email, there's still a web edition. Right. Because we got the content in.
Yeah, Sundays used to be, I think it was Sundays, so we're web only?
It's usually Fridays.
Okay, maybe.
And that's because we have more content. On Thursday night, I go in and I'm like, I'm going to find everything instead of having to be selective.
Okay.
So instead of 20 news stories and 30 commentaries and 10 or 15 podcasts, it'll be 37 news stories and 77 commentaries. And,
oh, goodness. Okay. A bit much for an email.
Well, yeah, that's exactly it. I'm selective during the week, because I'm sending out an email that will be truncated by most email clients and all that. And then Friday, I'm like, okay, we get people to the website. That actually increases donations because then there's an easy clickable link to support us.
Oh, nice. Clever.
And they come to the website to look at it instead of, they get an email telling them. Okay. Instead of the content in the email, it's, go to the website today.
Now, you also do, as we talked about, the William Lloyd Garrison Center. What is the URL for that, and what sort of things do you talk about on that?
It's the garrisoncenter.org. I've always been a guy who writes letters to the editor and op-eds. And in 2009, the Center for a Stateless Society came to me and said, can you do something like Jacob Hornberger used to do at the Future of Freedom Foundation? We write op-eds, we submit them to lots of newspapers, we don't charge them a fee, but the goal is to get our message out in the newspapers.
Sure.
So I built an op-ed operation for them, and eventually we kind of came to an ideological parting of the ways. And so I said, okay, I'm going to go do this by myself with maybe one or two other people. And so 3 times a week, there, whatever's in the news that people care about,
right.
There's a 400 to 500 word op-ed piece with a libertarian viewpoint on the issue, and I send it to about 1,400 U.S. newspapers.
Wow.
Okay. And if it's something of international interest, another 1,000 newspapers around the world. And usually 5 or 10 newspapers will pick it up, and some will run it in their web edition, and some will even run it in print. And then we'll have some big hits.
That is awesome. Check out Tom. He's over at thegarrisoncenter.org or rationalreview.com. Is that correct?
Yes.
Go check it out. Both of them are highly valuable sources of information. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thanks for having me.
It was a thrill to finally meet you. More coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
The Terran Federation and the Terran League have been killing each other for decades. Sheltered, wealthy, and light years from the threat, the members of the 500 have no interest in changing that. When Rear Admiral Terrence Murphy is given governorship of a backwater system, a risk-free path to wealth and power is his for the taking. But Murphy is a man of honor, duty, and responsibility. He intends to stop the killing, whatever the cost. Governor, by David Weber and Richard Fox, from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments around the world killing innocent people? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin is money that cannot be inflated or controlled by any state. By continuing to use their money, you're perpetuating the killing. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available to you now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. It's Bitcoin.com. Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
The LRN.FM's social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to mymagicmud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. mymagicmud.com, FTL20.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live from Fork Fest 2021 here in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. We're here at Rogers Campground until July the 4th. There's still plenty of time for you to come down and hang out with us. But word of advice, don't get hammered and then jump a 7-foot fence and go swimming at 1 o'clock in the morning. It doesn't end well. It didn't end badly, but wow, that water was cold, dude. Instant wide awakening. Don't recommend it. 0 out of 10. With us now, though, is Ernie Hancock of Declare Your Independence. How's your festival been going, Ernie?
It's been awesome. You know, we got here Friday night, so we got a day or two just kind of hang, and it filled up fast.
It looks like a lot of people arrived here the weekend before. the Porcupine Freedom Festival started?
It steadily built, and I think probably it maxed out. Well, it kept growing until Saturday night, the big party, and then people started leaving Sunday. And there's still a lot of people here for Fork Fest. I mean, this is the crowd, man. They go, and we're camping.
Yeah, but by the time I got here the night before the Porcupine Freedom Festival started, it felt like full swing. Everything. It felt like a normal year on Thursday, because usually people get out here for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and head out Sunday. But by the time, and the festival hadn't even started yet, just
there's
all
always
of the lights,
been
all of the people, it was
there's
already
always
in full
been a
swing.
pre-party to the Porcupine Freedom Festival of people arriving and hanging out and setting up and, reintroducing themselves to one another. The thing is, no one calls that anything. I think it was called Spork Fest one year or something. I don't recall exactly.
It was Somalia Fest.
Well, Somalia Fest became Fork Fest,
right.
Which then moved to behind
Pirate Fest and Fork Fest, and so on. And it was just a lot of the people. They like it up here.
Yeah.
They come early, stay late, and might as well have a thing. I mean,
well, it makes sense. If you're taking the week off to attend Pork Fest, then you're off on Saturday and Sunday. Might as well come up here Friday evening, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that's what a lot of people do, and I'm almost certain that throughout the next year I'm going to be promoting Fork Fest as June 18th through June the 30th because of that. That way, we have a way to label that pre-party and the after-party. Mm-hmm. But it all depends on what the Porcupine Freedom Festival does. I know Angie, who hosts the show with us occasionally, tried to reserve her RV site for next year and was told that she couldn't until she proved that she had bought a Pork Fest ticket for next year.
Yeah,
so it's possible they're going right back to renting out the entire campground.
Apparently, they are pulling back from the decentralized method that they had this year. Which
well, we don't
I think
know
was,
that.
Because they saw all that money out there and it didn't go through them.
Well, we don't know that they're doing that. It's just speculation at this point. There could just be some confusion on behalf of Rogers Campground. I reached out to Dennis Pratt to find out, what's actually going on, and he basically answered something like, well, is Angie trying to attend Pork Fest without buying a ticket? So I clarified she's trying to be at Rogers Campground while the event is happening. Does that require her to have a ticket is my question, because if it does, then you done goofed. Again, going right back to buying out the entire campground and organizing everything, and it'll be just a few years before pork rangers are patrolling and searching people's cars again.
This is, it was really obvious over the last few years is... when it first started, 'cause I've been coming since 2008. This is like 13 or something for me. I mean, and I never really plan on coming. I just always come,
Sure.
This is how it works. It's like salmon and rivers and stuff. But what happened, you could see it happen. They call it Agora Alley. When in the early days, it was down, as you go down to the pavilion, you have this big campground of hundreds of sites, and they all funnel down to the bottom where you go to the main pavilion and so on.
Yeah,
well,
so
course,
everyone going down to the main pavilion passes by those sites.
Exactly. So they just that's where, we have, what was it, the baklava guy, which was, the bacon train wreck, PETA freaking heart attack thing that they were making back in the day. And you had, these people did fantastic in food sales.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because it's always food, right? Mm-hmm. Well, then the next year they go, oh, hell, man, I'm going to make some bank. I'll do that. Crap, man, I can flip a burger.
Right.
So the Agora Alley, this one trail that was down closest, all of a sudden all the vendors started going there. Then there's 2 lanes and 3 lanes, and then Agora Alley became Agora Valley, Yeah. And then they go, hey, man, we'll just buy up these spots and sell them at a premium.
Right.
Then it turned in the last few years, it was vacant. There was a single, they said, never mind, we'll move over here.
That was like 2 years ago, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was blank, for like 2-3 years in a row. It just got to where it was, where Agora Valley was, nobody camped there.
Right.
It was just empty.
Well, because they were charging too much for the spots. They weren't charging Rogers Campground rates.
They were trying to control it. They were trying to glean from it. They were trying to look at all these people that we brought. Gosh darn it, man, we need to, increase our bank account. We got to take care of business, because their focus has been their focus is, they say, is to encourage moving. That is the main thing. They want to have a budget. They want to get people here. You came here so that you could witness this great thing and move here. You want to live here. You want to come to New Hampshire.
Yeah, but
and we're going to make money on you, doing that. It's just, it's fine. I don't have a problem with it. But what happened was people go, okay, well, we'll do that. But we'll go ahead and stay either come the week earlier or the week after, and then we'll just do what we want. And then that competition kind of, and then COVID last year, what they did is they go, we're going to kind of decentralize. They didn't really have a choice. There wasn't whether you were even going to have it, how it was going to be done, and just my encouragement has been just PorcFest is in the campground. There's all these different hubs of so this year they go, well, we'll support that. We'll just all right. Everybody at the Silk Road, so you're not walking through everybody's campground all the time. You just walk through these people's campground that know that the Silk Road, which was a chalk line, they just ran, and I really appreciate.
Oh,
that's
line. What the point of the chalk was?
That's what the chalk line was.
I didn't
realize that for a long time. That's the Silk Road. That's how you go, and that's how I
just
going
walked
up to
through
Babs. He was at the end of the Silk Road. That's the only way I could find it.
I mean, you're here at a festival. You got to expect people are just going to walk through your campsite instead of going all the way around. I mean,
it's true.
So they created that, and then people would actually purchase on the Silk Road because people were going by. So I'm going, that was a cool idea, and you just let the market, deal, and you provided an 8-inch wide road, for them to go, which I appreciated, by the way, because they helped me find crap and find my way home. And
Oh yeah,
and this has been a really good experiment. What happened years ago, a decade ago, when PorcFest started talking about going 501c3 and we're going to in business and we got rules and stuff.
Well, and they have no shortage of money. There was a sponsorship this year of the main pavilion that cost $10,000, and you don't get your money's worth at that rate. It's basically just a donation, and here's a few perks that you don't really care about. They have no shortage of money. They just have to be misspending it and making stupid decisions with it.
Well, you got to find out what their reasoning is, what's their goal. And they want to have a good representation of whatever it is that they want, which is the Free State Project. And PorcFest is probably, they don't want it to be lost in the hubbub that it is Free State. It's for them to get you to come move. It's meeting relationships, and they got, the new movers or the first-time attenders, or they'll come in and they'll indoctrinate you into, what everything's about. And
well, the taste of freedom seems to be the best way of motivating people to be here, to come here. But when they eliminate that and they become this tyrannical regime that, doesn't let people have a good time, you kind of lose the freedom aspect and you lose the appeal. Like, why would I come here when libertarians are just as harsh in their rule as, Governor whoever? More coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
On March 16th this year, government task forces violently raided the New Hampshire Bitcoin Embassy, the Mighty Moose Mart, the homes of Aria DiMezzo, Andy and Renee Spinella, Colleen Fordham, a grandmother, and perhaps most relevant, the studios of Free Talk Live. The Crypto Six were arrested. 4 were released on bail conditions, but Ian Freeman was held hostage for 69 days. Rich Paul, also known as Nobody, remains captive. We've consulted attorneys who say no crime even appears to have been committed. But that didn't stop the Joint Thug Task Force from ripping out wires from our broadcast stacks, taking Free Talk Live off the air, resulting in a violation of our and your First Amendment rights. You can visit thecrypto6.com to help, but as importantly, contact other media and tell them about this outrage. This case is likely to set precedent for cryptocurrency use well into your future. Help our fight for liberty and financial freedom at thecrypto6.com.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Excuse me, is this where I get a license to start a new business?
I wouldn't be hasty. You have to get a license to go out of business, too, you know.
Oh, well, look, I've invented this little anti-gravity machine, see?
Oh, is that why you're walking 2 inches above the floor?
Oh, yes, it's very comfortable. It saves on shoe leather.
Yeah, well, you have to fill out these forms and report to the Human Services Department of Manpower Orientation and register with the Fair Employment Practice Commission, the Wage and Hour Division of the Employment Standards Administration, the State Sales and Income Tax Division, the Internal Revenue Service, and the Social Security Administration of the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, and, of course, OSHA.
OSHA? I thought that was a little town in Wisconsin.
You'll find out. Say, floating around like that could be dangerous. Have you checked with the Consumer Product Safety Commission?
Well, not yet.
Come to think of it, you actually are flying, aren't you? Look, you need to go over to the Federal Aviation Administration and the Transportation...
It's very hard to get anything done these days if you're in business, but free enterprise built this country. Think what could happen if we don't keep it free. A public service of this station and the Center for the Defense of Free Enterprise, Bellevue, Washington.
We just can't have people floating about unregulated, you know.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, normally talk radio that you control, but of course we're not in the studio. We are at Forkfest 2021. We're here until July the 4th, so you still have plenty of time to come check it out. As far as we can tell, Rogers Campground is not sold out as they were during the Porcupine Freedom Festival. There's plenty of motel rooms available, RV sites available, and even camping sites available. Get down here. We're here until July the 4th. Now, you two were just talking about IPSF.
IPFS.
What is that?
Interplanetary File System.
Okay. Already off in the weeds. Good start.
Okay, no. This is, I'll explain to you. It's really easy. I found that my whole thing was I could see this censorship crap coming from 2009.
Right.
You know, right after the Levolution and the best minds, the most entertaining, the most information, and you're not allowed. You know. And a lot of people got wind of it here in just the last couple of years. I go, no, it started right away, man.
Mm-hmm.
Once the Levolution Day got out of hand, they're like,
well,
hell
I mean,
no.
it has ramped up like crazy. Like at this point, it's like, well, whatever the CDC said today is what you better not talk about. The opposite of, or you will be kicked off of this platform, and we will delete all your data.
See, I'm the bumper sticker guy. I mean, just skip to the end. You know, this is my deal. I go, look, I just want to be able to save ones and zeros, put them somewhere, and be able to, anybody and myself at least, be able to access those ones and zeros from anywhere and do what I want. I mean, how hard is this? I mean, you got to, in the Amazon cloud doesn't allow, whatever. Shut up, okay? So I need...
Well, library is free of censorship. LBRY.
Right up until the SEC comes after you and we know where your brick and mortar is and you're in court.
They can take out Jeremy Coffin, but they can't stop library itself.
If they do library.app, you got to get off of the grid, you know. So this is what we were looking for. And Derek Slopey from Agris Hosting is the IT behind Freedom's Phoenix and the show and all that kind of stuff, and super freaking genius guy that has enough bulldozer grease under his fingernails. He's like, I got plan to do, man. I can't be coding all the time. But the so he would help and make sure this stuff happens, and we got teams and people working on it. But he came to me a few years ago and he says, all this stuff that you're talking about, he goes, I think IPFS is. It was a couple of years later before I even found out it was a thing from Filecoin. Because I don't pay. I'm not a geek. I don't give a crap. I can store ones and zeros, and I can access them, and anybody can, and they can't stop it. Well, what the hell are we waiting on, man? Let's get on it. So what we did is I do a weekly show with James Corbett for years. And he understood this. He's going, yeah, they're coming, man. I can't believe, I'm not deplatformed yet. Well, that came, and I'm like, woo, you made it, All right.
Okay, but what is IPFS?
Okay, what it is how we're using it. I'll just tell you what's going on. We go to James. I said, we need a site map. So he goes, yeah, whatever. He looks it up and did, okay, boom. It did a site map on my site. He sent that to Derek. 18 hours later, his entire site was on IPFS, and you can't take it down.
Okay.
So what happens is...
So it's sort of a decentralized network?
Decentralized network.
Yeah.
And what it is nodes. The way I understand it is that when you load up a file onto your IPFS-enabled computer, it's a desktop on here. I use it on Think Penguin, Linux, and IPFS desktop, and you just do it. Or we have what we call pirate boxes, which are Raspberry Pis, just to show how simple and easy and cheap this is. A Raspberry Pi with the pirate box, software on it. I'm able to take any logo, any file, any picture, anything, load it up to the network, but you want to pin it to where you always have one server that always has that data available. So when anybody asks for that name file, not a location, because when you do, like Free Talk Live, that's a number. That's a DNS number. That's your IP number. That's a location.
You mean freetalklive.com?
.com.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you go to freetalklive.com, you'll have a location. It's an address of a server on a rack somewhere.
An IP address.
It has, it has. This is exactly where you send the Hellfire missile. Okay, this is where it is. This is the brick and mortar. This is the link that you need to sever. This is where you need to have your FBI ready.
Well, that's becoming increasingly more difficult with Free Talk Live. I mean, we're decentralizing in some pretty major ways. We actually have a new website design that we hope to roll out in the near future. It's technically live already, but it's not encompassing the entire Free Talk Live.
You guys are a neon flashing example of why you need this, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So what we did is we go, all right, if we are able to platform, not just individuals putting files up and so on, but if you can take an entire site and move it over, well, that's called IPNS, the naming system. You have a static address. So if you go on freedomsphoenix.com, and we're still developing, but it's really working. So we should probably promote it more now, and that's what we're going to be doing starting this Friday, Black Market Fridays, every Friday. You need to learn how to freaking do this every Friday. Don't run the Walmart or order Amazon. Use a crypto cash silver to get
You're getting off track. We still need to know what IPFS is.
Because IPFS allows for this. Because when we'll use Corbett as an example. He gave us a site map, so we took his entire... You don't even ask people. I mean, it's Lou Rockwell, Dr. Mercola, Del Bigtree's Highwire. I mean, a lot of these people were having problems, and they were censoring. We go, I'll take care of that. Don't worry about it. Boom. We bring over the entire site, and it has all hashes. So now we have to have search. Well, Colin Pape from Presearch is working with us. We're up to $7,500 in bounty for different features that we're adding to it because it keeps coming faster and faster. It's internet 3-point kiss my ass. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's
what's the advantage of using this versus just having your content on the Tor network?
Tor is
and
a
running
possibility.
Your own server.
But you have to use special browsers, and it's slower because it bounces around a lot. And Tor is a possibility, and we have a fulfillment for the Raspberry Pis is coming from Start9 Labs, which has a Raspberry Pi embassy that uses Tor, so that you can have anywhere in the world, if it's connected to the internet, you put it in the ceiling tiles of the Starbucks and hack into their whatever the hell. As you got power and an internet connection, you can save your files there. You can access them. You can do whatever. So it was a small step. We were at Float Fest, and one of the guys that was their social media going out doing guru festival guy is a longtime listener of the show, and he goes, I know Ernie wants this one,
Sure.
So he goes, here, Ernie, let me show you what we're doing. I'm like, you're my new best friend. Okay, now we got fulfillment, for the hardware.
Right.
But we take entire sites and we put it, and it looks just like Corbett's site. If you go to Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock, you'll see the icon at the top right of Freedom's Phoenix. You go into there, and any one of the shows, you scroll down to the bottom of the archive shows, and you'll see the Love Bus picture there. Right above that is all the IPFS links. And I'll show you here in the break. You go in and you go click on the IPNS static page for Corbett. His entire site is duplicated there, but it's pinned on one or more servers,
right.
So the data's always there. So the pirate box
sort of like having a website on library, really.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but IPFS has, I think, millions of nodes now. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So when you request the file, you're looking for a name, not in the location. So you say, the first 200 nodes you're connected to or something, do you guys have this name? Yeah, here it is, or no. And then it goes, each of those is 200, 200, 200, boom. The whole freaking network is queried. And when you request it, it brings that data and caches it on the fastest ping local IPFS node. So it caches it there. So the more traffic it has, the faster it goes. I'm going to show you. Click on Corbett, boom, it's faster than the World Wide Web because it's serving it from everywhere. And the more popular it is, the more copies
torrenting.
it has. I'm sorry?
Like torrenting. I mean, that's similar to how library works as well. And I guess that's where I'm getting confused, except library doesn't do websites. But if it did, it sounds like that would be essentially the same thing.
Well, I'll give you an example.
It serves up your content from multiple sources. And
I'll give you a use case. This is how it really, it crystallized in my mind. My youngest daughter, my 12th grandchild, is in the womb, takes a picture of these 3D, oh my God, portrait. Might as well put it on the wall, and she sends it on Facebook. So now my grandchild is facial recognition before he was even freaking born. I go, why the hell did you do that? And they go, well, convenience. And I go, can't we have a network that a family and anybody else can access it and it's there and I'm not, serving the man? Yeah, well, let's do that.
More coming up. It is Fork Fest, and we're here until July the 4th. Get down here and hang out with us. This is Free Talk Live.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it. And once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world. So I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here. And I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it! You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live with Aria, Lee, and Ernie discussing the importance of decentralization. Now, this is something that we've been heavily doing at Free Talk Live, with the show now being automatically uploaded to Library. I think it's being streamed to Odyssey. Of course, we have our own Matrix server, our own Twitter clone. I never remember the name of it.
Mastodon.
Mastodon, is that it?
Yeah, I think so.
I thought Mastodon was the chat server. No, you're correct. It is Mastodon. Our own Mastodon server, our own Matrix server, which Matrix is sort of an alternative to Discord that is decentralized and it can be encrypted. All of these things are important because Free Talk Live, I'm sure if you've gone to Free Talk Live Radio's YouTube channel, there hasn't been anything there since like early March, mid-March.
Shocking.
Yeah, because we got 2 channel strikes, and a third one means that the channel gets permanently deleted. So we're just like, okay, well, let's just not stream to the channel until at least one of these strikes come off. Because as soon as we start broadcasting again, we're going to get another.
Oh man, this is how the controls, incentives, and what
it's just like what you were talking about with Agora Valley, though. Like, if you're going to make it so that the incentives of being here are too strict and too difficult, like in that case, it was price. In our case, it's we're not allowed to talk about the things we want to talk about. If you're going to make it like that, well, guess what? We're going to go next one. We're going to go next lane over.
Well, yes, but that severely reduces our reach.
It sure does.
I want to give you a real case example. We talked about, my grandson getting facial recognition. I'm like, we got to do something else. I'm not helping him. I mean, And so as a practical application, while we're doing the Love Bus tour in the country, it's a lot more difficult to find good internet. Starlink thing kicked ass, up here, though. That's a whole nother thing. But what we do is we're working with Float, and I'm tired as a content provider having to watch spinning wheels to go on to Library to Minds, to BitChute, to YouTube. Screw that crap. When they're going around taking deplatforming in the long run, and 10 years from now, it's not going to be, it has to be ours. So I'm going, okay, if I take my entire page, the show for that day, or whatever files, anything, and I load it to my IPFS node sitting there, I need the platforms to pull from me. I'm not pushing them anymore. I'm not going to sit there and watch spinning wheels. My producer wife will freaking, quit and divorce and whatever. I'm tired of doing this, So I go, all right, can I take and I load to and pin it to my, IPFS node, and then others pin it. Well, we got a 16 terabyte Blade server in Maine that goes there, and they house it too. So there's 2, and then we have the Liberty Library that we put on these pirate boxes to mine and James's audience, and they do it. So it's going anyway. We've been doing this a long time, so we have a good hub. But anybody can do this. So I put it up, and then Float takes the metadata from my file. I'm not pushing it to them. They pull it. They get the title, the summary, and then the link to the hash to the file. Well, then we find out, we can embed on IPFS. So now we got an embed file, and then what do? They take that data and they platform to YouTube, library, Minds.
Oh,
so I'm only
nice.
doing it one effing time. I am so sick of this. Well, then ContentSafe.co, which is Matt Raymer, has been working with the autonomy guys and Richard Grove, and he's been in on the beginning because for years we've been talking about this and so on. So he's going, yeah, I'll provide that. You just load it, I'll pin it, and then I'll propagate it, for you. You don't have to do it, and you can pay me to do it for you. Well, we're setting it up to where the software does it and Float does it.
Right.
So, I mean, there's all kinds of these different options to where I do it once to my own server sitting right there at my knees.
And then instead of having to put it in all these places, it'll
does
pull
it
from all those places,
It
pulls to Float, and then Float will put it on all the platforms that you wanted to get to.
Yeah, and of course you want to work with Jeremy over at Library, and we talked about, Derek and I went to Manchester a few years ago. We sat down and said, this is what we're going to be doing, and when it's time, they'll whatever. So what we have to do is just do it, demonstrate it, and Chuck Williams and Alex Martin, the CXOs over at oh, that's a new one. CXO. What the hell's that? Experience officer. I get to do everything, but I'm not responsible for anything. Derek
Hold
goes,
on.
that's what I am.
So
I
is this just a thing that you have set up for yours, or is this like part of the IPFS software that it just does that?
It allows.
Oh, it allows that. Okay.
So we did.
So yeah, so it really is a lot like torrenting, where if you want to host that data, then you can.
The difference with torrenting is because to keep it anonymous, it bounces around and gets slower, and then you have a lot of bottlenecks, and there's that kind of thing for speed. And this is not. I mean, it's private.
My experience with torrent is the opposite. I get significantly faster download speeds with torrents than I do anything else because it's got 30 to 40 different people serving that content to you.
One thing has to be a grandma just button for me. And what happens is that you can use, if you use the gateway, we're doing IPFS on any browser. You don't have to download something, and then you can do it a lot of different ways. The main thing for me is that I wanted to have files that were available to any and everybody. I could format it whatever the hell I wanted, like any other web page, and it can be accessible from anywhere. And you can't carve it out of the network because it's replicated everywhere. It's like a Bitcoin. It's like a blockchain.
Right.
It's wherever that pinned files are, you can always get them. So
that's why decentralization is so important. And you
it's a
mentioned
philosophy
Bitcoin.
that's supported with this tech.
Yeah, the only way people can take out your website now or Bitcoin is some sort of EMP that takes out
Shut
the entire
it all down,
planet.
Man. We can go cucumber.
I mean, that's the only way to stop decentralization. You have to take out all of them simultaneously because any one of those nodes can completely rebuild the entire network.
Right.
They just have to have people who are willing to mirror it.
Well, it's automatic in that if you have someone that says, I am a pinner of all files from freetalklive. Whatever, okay? I have the entire library on my thing. Well, those pin files are the seed, like in Tor,
right.
That makes sure that it's always propagated. Well, if you have a bunch of pin files, but if it's a popular site, well, it's already replicated. It's copied in the caches of all these different places where it went through.
Right.
And then it's sharded, so you'll stitch it together. So a lot of people that are on it, if they don't pin the whole file, they're hosting a whole bunch of data. They don't care. They couldn't, wouldn't know anyway. So this network, when I started to see, the reason it was for Filecoin was kind of trying to it's like MaidSafe. I was so excited about when MaidSafe came out. MAID safe.net. MaidSafe.net years ago in 15 or something, they were making these claims, and they're still working on it. I interviewed David Irvine out of Troon, Scotland, and they're still working on this. But the idea was, it was a whistleblower. It was like a WikiLeaks for everybody, to where you could store your data, you could put it out, anybody access it. It was anonymous, and it could never be deleted and whatever. So I'm going, oh, that's cool, man. I'm definitely down for that. And when they put up the financing for it, it sold out in 5 hours. Millions of dollars, boom, done. Filecoin comes, and it's, 300 million is about as fast. And I'm going, let me tell you what that tells me. It tells you there's a free market demand for, no censorship, and I get to do what I want. And,
that's a fact.
Well, obviously, big tech has been cracking down on people more than ever.
Yeah, that was even back then. I'm going, guys, don't you see what's coming? But what did the young people with content providers and everybody convenience? And then they're going on 15 gazillion things, even on Free Talk Live. Twitch and Discord and all that. I go, hell, a lot of that's freaking Amazon. I mean, it's a, and
sure, but we also do all of that as you do with the click of one button. I mean, we click one button and it goes to all of those platforms. Not dependent at all. I mean, you can go to freetalklive.com and the only way they can take that out is to get our web host to deplatform us. No, because then people can just enter the IP address. Instead of typing in freetalklive.com, they would just have to type in the IP address.
Which is a good thing to promote because that's what Corbett was doing. He's going, look, everybody, this isn't going to be here. So on all of his files, he has the MP4 of the video, where it is on Archive, Minds, Library. He does all this. So I'm going, yeah, that'd be cool, but then I'd have to get divorced because she wouldn't want to do all that and sit and watch the spinning wheels. And his benefit is he's in Western Japan. He's on fiber. And this is the one thing. David Friedman stopped by the Love Bus. He was a speaker. He visited for a little bit. And I go, let me tell you what's going to change. Where you have urban ideology, regardless of how Marxist it is, or you got Austrian or leave me aloneness, libertarian, voluntarist, whatever, they're only the voices that you can hear from someone that has good access to the internet, especially if it's video.
Yeah.
They are in urban areas. They got, because, Starlink has not, propagated throughout the universe yet. And you are not hearing the J Noons. You're not getting the people out in the, that, don't have window. Whole rural America
sort of
flyover
because
country
all they have to
has
do
a voice, then it changes.
Well, that's exactly what Free Talk Live does. They don't need internet. If they want to get their opinions heard, all they have to do is call the show. And we broadcast their opinion on terrestrial radio, on close to 200 radio stations. I mean, Free Talk Live exists specifically to provide a voice to whoever wants to express their opinions.
And that, 22-and-a-half-year-old girl that's in the, calling online, they heard it on a show in the hinterland of whatever, would like to do a video and express herself. That's coming.
We are, Check him out. It's Declare Your Independence with ErnestHancock.com. Is that correct?
One of them,
yeah. Thank you so much for joining us, Ernie. More coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover brings her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
The latest episode of Free Talk Live continues with Hour 2 up next after the news here at listen.freetalklive.com.
Not giving up. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. 6 days after the partial collapse of a high-rise condo in Surfside, Florida, 12 people are now confirmed dead and 149 are missing. Rescuers are still carefully combing through rubble looking for survivors.
They hear some types of noise, tapping noises and stuff like that. What that noise actually is, they haven't really stated, but I do know that they have that hope.
Chairman of the Miami-Dade Board of County Commissioners, Jose Diaz, President Biden is set to visit the area on Thursday. The president has begun his road trip to sell his infrastructure plan with a stop today in La Crosse, Wisconsin at a transit facility. The roughly $1 trillion plan would pay for key infrastructure over an 8-year period. It's already been agreed to by a group of bipartisan lawmakers.
We're going to get it all done without raising taxes on a single American earning less than $400,000.
Some top Democrats have threatened to block the bill if it's not tied to a larger spending plan, but the president has said he would be willing to pass them separately. A forum on Capitol Hill today held by Republicans to look into the origins of COVID-19.
Republicans say they'll have a report next month detailing COVID-19's origins despite obstruction from China's government. Republicans have also knocked Democrats for refusing to hold a full congressional hearing into COVID's origins. The Biden administration has initiated an intelligence review into the origins of COVID-19, and Democrats say it's critical to allow that review to finish first to avoid any premature conclusions.
Fox's Rich Edson at the State Department. An electrical utility company in Spokane, Washington is warning of more rolling blackouts as the Pacific Northwest deals with record-setting heat. About 8,200 customers in Spokane lost power yesterday. America is listening to Fox News.
Don't put off creating or setting up a will or trust because you think it's complex and expensive. With trustandwill.com, it's simple, convenient, and secure. For as little as $39, you can nominate guardians for your children, determine who gets your stuff, and plan for future medical care all online. Trust and Will is the most trusted name in online estate planning, having helped hundreds of thousands of people protect their families, assets, and legacy. Don't put this off any longer. Get 10% off plus free shipping at trustandwill.com/Fox.
A warning about the rise in violence in Afghanistan as the U.S. pulls out.
General Austin Scott Miller, who's overseeing America's withdrawal from Afghanistan, says as the U.S. pulls out after nearly 20 years, peace has not been secured. He told reporters in Kabul Afghanistan needs a political settlement. And so far there's little sign of that, with Taliban militants rapidly capturing a series of districts in recent months. There have been warnings of a possible civil war. In London, Simon Owen, Fox News.
The European Union says cultural institutions in member nations have lost up to 4/5 of revenue and attendance as the pandemic ravaged the continent. The latest EU figures show museums in popular tourist regions lost up to 80% of revenue last year. Cinemas saw a drop in box office sales of 70%, while attendance for music concerts and festivals from 76%. The prison system in New Jersey is about to begin housing inmates based on gender identity after a lawsuit filed in 2019 by a transgender woman who says she was forced to live in men's prisons for a year and a half. The new policy goes into effect July 1st. General Motors is recalling some of its older sport utility vehicles.
It's more than 380,000 SUVs with a suspension problem that can cause them to sway at highway speeds. The recall covers the 2010 through 2016 Cadillac SRX and the 2011 and 2012 Saab 9-4X. GM used to own Saab before the brand was.
You know how annoying it is when someone keeps stopping mid-sentence as though he or she were asking you a series of questions? Avoid doing that. It sounds unnervingly tentative, and it imposes upon the listener to help you complete the thought. And if you're a job seeker, this alone could be a deal killer. An effective communicator sounds more confident. Complete the thought. Avoid making the listener impatient. With money and attention so scarce now, effective communication skills have never been more important. Cutting through the clutter rather than blending into the blah, blah, blah will help you connect better no matter what the conversation. For more tips, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook. Survivalspeech.com.
A new report by the Department of Health and Human Services has found that the average male is 4,000% less effective in fights than he imagines, casting powerful doubts on many men's claims that they could take someone out in 2 seconds or smash a guy's face in with their fist.
On average, men describing hypothetical fights overestimated their level of combat skill by a factor of 40, with 80% of males incorrectly predicting they could mess a guy up real bad with one solid punch to the jaw. During actual physical altercations, however, these men were statistically more likely to end up hurting themselves, or, most commonly, trying to diffuse the tension by nervously saying, "Hey man, let's all just calm down, okay?" before any fighting even came to pass.
Researchers discovered that men were significantly weaker than they verbally indicated while chatting with friends in bars and locker rooms, and that men who were 90% sure they could tear someone a new asshole tended to succeed in fewer than 1 in 10 fights.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live from the after party of the last, for now, open and decentralized Porcupine Freedom Festival. I'm sorry to report, it is true. The Free State Project has reserved the entire campground for PorcFest 2022.
Oh, wow.
If you want to attend, which, I mean, they learn nothing, man. They learn nothing. And just, this is especially frustrating for me because Saturday night I was talking with next year's organizer about having PorcFest and the Porcupine Freedom Festival work more closely together to build the single best festival that we could, but no. They don't want to leave all that money on the table. They want to be able to charge you $50 a day for a campsite. They want some of that money that Rogers Campground is making, and they're going to go after it.
Oh, wait, they're going to get a cut of every, they reserved, they bought out the entire campground, going to sell it, they get a cut.
As far as I can tell, that's the case. Yeah, I mean,
Or maybe they just want to make the requirement you pay.
Well, you're not getting the site from Rogers Campground anymore. You're getting it from the Free State Project.
That's what happened. That's what the Agora Alley problem.
I know.
So yeah,
they
just,
didn't learn
they just
anything.
expanded the Agora Alley problem to the entire campground.
Well, they did that years before as well. I mean,
oh wow.
It was only last year that they opened everything back up, and this year they continued that. And apparently they were like, "Ooh, you know, this biggest, most successful Porcupine Freedom Festival in history just wasn't good enough. We have to find a way to monetize it and make more money off of these people." It's very frustrating to hear this. I mean, yes.
Well, I mean, you know, if they can contract. Probably don't care. You want to buy out the whole campground? You're allowed. You know, I mean,
sure.
You know, what's he going to do?
I'm not saying they're not allowed to do it. I'm just saying it's a bad decision, and I don't support it. And I think they're going to regret it.
I mean, they could, you know, try to not screw it up. I mean, you know, it's.
Oh yes, the Free State Project trying not to screw something up has historically ended with them screwing something up.
PorcFest, it's the thing. I mean, they're very proud of it. It's the place to be. It's the rocking and rolling and whatnot, and kind of you should. But that's why I was.
Well, it was that way this year and last year, but in years previous,
I like the fact that it has competition. That's why I was so supportive of PorcFest. We did the shirts. You see a lot around here. We helped promote, you know, Man Camp. You know, we went to the Dome. We did, but then you know, Steven Zeiler and Derek J. That was kind of a lot of the engine behind it. You know, the FBI doing crypto, kind of explaining it to him, and we're in the Mediterranean. You know,
sure.
So you know, it's who's willing to stick it out. You
well,
know,
they weren't even at PorcFest last year, so I don't know how much of the engine they were, but they weren't even here for PorcFest last year. They only came for the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and it was nice to be able to have both events happen concurrently in a cooperative and friendly way. But it looks like, I mean, PorcFest won't be able to take place during the Porcupine Freedom Festival next year because
well, it really.
I'm not going to bow to.
I don't care.
I'm not going to bow to the Free State Project in order to get a site here at Rogers Campground. And it's very likely that with Free Talk Live's connection with Crosby, we wouldn't have to. But it's still.
Yeah, can't you have? Well, what are they going to do? Is PorcFest going to buy 2 weeks? Are they going to get the 4th of July weekend? Or they? I mean, how much muscle
they attempted that last year. They were like, "Oh no, you guys had the 4th of July weekend and everyone loved it. We're going to take the 4th of July weekend." As I understand it, Crosby said, "No, that's already reserved for PorcFest. We're not going to let you do that." I don't know.
We get one moment's peace. One moment where we can all just get along and people can come for PorcFest because they want to do business and talk to people, or they can come to Porcupine Freedom Festival and they can do that and go to all the meetings and the talks and the big presentations, and everyone was getting along beautifully.
Yeah, 2 years of peaceful coexistence and, you know, mutual respect and working together, not officially or unofficially, but, you know, we promoted their thing and, you know, PorcFest is the largest sponsor of the Porcupine Freedom Festival.
Where I see it going
Back to where it was 2 years ago.
Crosby's 84 years old.
Mm.
He fell off the tractor this last year, broke his hip, and he's recovering pretty quick. He's a healthy guy.
I'm glad to hear that.
At 84, but he's like, hey, man, 84. He and I think we're going golfing Thursday. Every year we go golfing. I have him on the show. How many clipboards from the man showed up? I mean, it's interesting conversation. We're good friends.
We usually have him on Free Talk Live, but he seems to be pretty busy.
Yeah, no, he's been busy. He doesn't care. Everybody's, well, Crosby won't. He goes, I don't care. He doesn't care. So
Well, I mean, he's
trying to blame
84.
Crosby for everything is BS because he doesn't care. You
Right.
know. So, but he's willing to contract, and what happens is he's the one that has been protecting PorkFest at the gate here. None shall pass of the man.
Right.
If it wasn't for him or somebody claiming private, this is mine, which is when they talk about wanting to buy PorkFest. Rogers. When they want to buy Rogers, there's meetings every year. Somebody we're gonna
Don't get me started.
Whatever. So the thing is that I'm going, all right, what do I have to do? What can I do? What's your conflict resolution? That's all I want to know. What am I getting for my money? So it's interesting. They got, some opportunities. They're doing that. But then a year or two, Crosby may not be the guy you're dealing with. There's going to be some hedge fund managed by the blah, blah, blah. Of we don't care if,
Sure.
they do what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So all this gravy train that they think and how they're going to in the relationship with, when Crosby's
This
gone,
Freedom
it's gonna
Festival
change.
brought to you by Clear Channel.
And don't laugh. It's been Coctopus for a while,
Yeah.
So it's been, it's interesting example, which is why 10 years ago we started the Jackalope. In Arizona, there is nothing. It's camping, dry camping in the forest to figure it out on your own. And they go, well, where's in the speakers in the list of the microphone at the stage? You're like, you don't bring it, don't count on it happening.
Did you want a stage? We'll build it. Did you want microphones and a speaker? Well, why didn't you truck them out here?
Right, which is what happens, and everybody's like, I guess it sounds like you want it, so it's you, and you have competing, which is kind of how ForkFest, kind of evolved around that. But
it was I will never forget one year, Ian and I were doing the show, and in between segments, someone came by and was like, hey, who's in charge around here? We were like, no one. And he just you could see the confusion just overwhelming his face at this idea that there was this festival and no one was in charge, right?
Because they want to be able to convince one guy, a little something, bribe money, sponsor, who they can go to get what they want and what the leadership wants, and not necessarily what the market wants.
Right.
Because it's easier for them to input something. You take that away, then it has to be by popular support.
Right.
It has to be a free market decision if I like
Right.
that.
You have to make better decisions when you're dealing with the market. Whereas if you're dealing with a couple of or even one person, then you don't have to make great decisions.
See, I'm not against PorkFest.
I'm not against PorkFest either. I'm against control.
I think that they would be better served by changing that. When the COVID year of last year, I didn't care. I'm going to come up. Rogers, you open, I'm coming up. I mean, I didn't give a crap what was going on. I mean, I've salmon. So I come up here, and it was open, and I was talking to a lot of the guys. I said, if he's having problems with manpower, which he did. I mean, everybody's, collecting whatever the hell. I go, the Free State, hell, I'll come up and help. Put me on a tractor, man. Let's do it. I'll mow. And that's what happens. So the fact that Rogers was open last year and demonstrated, screw you, all these people, I was doing interviews all last year of people that have been in their apartment in New Jersey for 5 months.
Mm-hmm.
They hadn't leaving, we're on lockdown, no bars, gifts. I'm going, well, get the hell out. What the hell are you doing there? That's when Luke Radowski finally moved out of Brooklyn, got his fifth wheel, learned how to shoot a gun and weld, got all man camped up at Jay's. He's a different guy now, So it's
fear is powerful, and these people were a lot of these people were just terrified of this thing that was really no more threatening or dangerous than the common cold, because the media had just for the last year it's just been peddling exactly that narrative. It's all you see is fear and fear and fear. The people who sit there and watch television 35, 40 hours a week, they're terrified.
CNN.
Yeah, I mean, all they have to do is unplug their television and take a look at the world around them, and they go, yeah, the media is blowing this way out of proportion. But they don't do that. They're addicted to that glowing box, and they're going to feel whatever it tells them to feel.
I'm happy with the way things. See, when we have Freedom's Phoenix, the idea is the rebirth of freedom from the ashes of Lady Liberty's torch. That was the idea. From
Right.
96.
Mhm.
05, internet starts getting video. Boom, we open it. Here we go. And I knew we had to go through this. You got to go through the ashes. And we're going through the ashes. Here we go.
There we
And
go.
when that happens,
Back through the ashes.
what's going to survive that? We are. And all the tools that we got, it's all good, man. We just sitting there waiting for the long run.
You can go to freedomsphoenix.com to find out more. That's freedoms with an S, phoenix.com. More coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
A newly recruited search and rescue officer, Marshall Hunter was resigned to a life of rescuing wayward spacefarers and derelict satellites. But when a billionaire couple goes missing, his own ship is disabled during the rescue. With communication satellites suddenly failing and lunar mineral shipments disappearing in transit, the crew suspects it's more than a coincidence, and Hunter must choose between salvation and sacrifice to save his crewmates and their civilian charges. Frontier by Patrick Childs and BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless free market non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Free Talk Live.
My father was a police officer most of my life. He went to prison for police brutality. And my father was the chief.
What was he like at home with you when you were growing up? Was he violent with you?
He was never with me. He practically ignored me. Actually, I never really had a relationship with him, but extremely violent to my mother. He beat her up practically every day of my life.
Oh, my gosh.
He never touched me or my sisters or my brothers.
Did he have a drinking problem?
No, he's never drank alcohol in his
Wow,
entire
so
life.
violent without alcohol. Very interesting.
I lived in a very small town in West Virginia, and my sisters and I and my brothers, we could do whatever we wanted. There were no laws for us. I could drive as fast as I wanted.
You said that he abused your mother, beat her frequently. Did she ever leave him?
Yes, numerous times, but she couldn't do anything because there was no help for her. There were no police to call to help her. There was no help for her because my father was very well connected. He knew everybody in the state.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
Do you appreciate what we do? Help us advertise, market, and promote for just $5 a month at amp.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live from Fork Fest 2021 here at Rogers Campground. You're still invited to join us. We're here until July the 4th this year, and next year it's looking like the dates, I don't recall now exactly what dates we're looking at, but next year we're going to be doing both Somalia Fest prior to the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and then Fork Fest after the Porcupine Freedom Festival. Chris Wade has finally joined us. Good morning, I guess.
I'm late, but I'm
here.
Here.
It's fine. So you haven't heard anything I've been in contact with Dennis Pratt. I mean, you were there last night when I emailed him asking for clarification. It's true. They bought out the entire campground. They've doubled the early bird ticket costs, and they are not happy. They've accused people who were physically present at Rogers Campground over the last week.
Yep.
But who did not go down into the bowl and did not buy a PorcFest ticket. They accused them of, quote, theft of service. Now, this would include all three of us. Well, I think you bought a ticket, and you technically had tickets, and I technically had tickets, too.
I had a bunch of tickets.
But none of us actually paid for them.
Tickets.
Yeah, none of us picked up our tickets. I even went down there.
They were paid for, but not picked up.
Yeah.
I paid for mine. I picked it up.
Theft of service is the word they're using to describe the peaceful coexistence of Fork Fest with the Porcupine Freedom Festival that has happened the last 2 years has now come to a crashing, bitter end. It's heartbreaking to see them go back down this road. I mean, you would have thought they learned their lesson, right? When they kicked out Free Talk Live, essentially, and they locked down the campground, numbers just plummeted year after year after year. They opened things back up. Last year was described as one of the best PorcFest that people had ever attended. This year was the biggest, and a lot of people are describing it as the best one they've ever attended. But next year, we'll be back. We'll be back to having someone up there at the front checking to make sure you have a wristband or a PorcFest sticker on your vehicle or whatever before you're allowed into the campground. And there will be pork rangers, again, cruising around, searching people's vehicles, checking for wristbands. Oh, no. How can you be at your campsite? You're not wearing a wristband. You're stealing from the Free State Project by merely being here and not bowing and kissing the ring of the Free State Project.
We brought cool people here and you didn't give us money for it. How dare you talk to them?
Well, we brought cooler people here, and ForkFest, on behalf of, I don't know if they wish to remain anonymous, certainly did give them money. So if they want to say that, you know, the ForkFest attendees stole from PorcFest or the Porcupine Freedom Festival, okay, then just take some of that $10,000 that was donated on behalf of ForkFest and consider it your payment for those people who came here and didn't buy Porcupine Freedom Festival tickets, because there was certainly not $10,000 worth of product, of service as a result of that donation.
Right.
So,
so that wasn't a donation. That was paid for advertising. That wasn't all that good.
Well,
no,
I remember hold on. So, I mean, like,
we need to compare what happened versus what we've seen in past years. Like when Dash sponsored the Porcupine Freedom Festival, there were Dash people everywhere. They had Dash logos everywhere on all of the PorcFest stuff, and there was a great, big, enormous banner that you could not miss on the outside of the pavilion.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, ForkFest instead got one of these banners like we have hanging up here that no one can see because we're not streaming video, so I don't know why I motioned to it, hanging off over in the corner. And if you look closely on the screens that were off to the side.
Yeah, it wasn't up to the level of expectation that I think anybody who is more aggressive, and you know,
I mean, can you imagine what ForkFest could achieve if we just took $10,000 and invested it into the actual ForkFest festival?
Honestly, it effectively was almost a donation, but at the same time,
I would absolutely qualify it as a donation because, okay, Dash, you are looking to make money. You're looking to get Dash popular. Like, you're trying to get a secondary benefit out of this. ForkFest isn't making any money.
That's true.
That's true, because we don't sell tickets.
We're just doing this for the love of it.
Yep.
So, yeah, this is absolutely a donation.
Well, it was also a plug of the Crypto 6.
It'd be nice if you advertised too.
It was also a plug of the Crypto 6, which was tremendously helpful. The only thing I regret about that whole thing is that during my presentation, I didn't point out to people where they could buy Free the Crypto 6 shirts. I mean, you were sitting there motioning to it, and I was like, okay, yeah, of course I'm going to plug the website, because all I saw was Free the Crypto 6. I was like, yeah, obviously. I didn't think about actually pointing to people, hey, go buy the shirts up there.
Yeah, we had them. We actually sold less than 20 T-shirts the whole event, which
Really?
was really pathetic. We actually sold, I think, more at Westmoreland Day Market Day event than we sold at all of PorkFest.
Well, knowing who the Crypto Six are and what's going on there is probably going to make people more motivated to buy the T-shirt. I mean, a lot of the people here had never heard of it, didn't even know it was happening.
And that was part of the reason there weren't that many shirts sold. There also wasn't a lot of traffic. I mean, some of this isn't really the PorkFest organizers or anything fault. So I don't want to suggest I definitely am not saying it was, but it was partially. We could have done a better job in promoting it. And I think next year, participants of ForkFest will definitely do a better job of promoting it.
ForkFest is still occurring. I suspect most of the people who come to ForkFest heard about it from Free Talk Live and therefore know about the Crypto 6 and would therefore be more inclined to buy a Free the Crypto 6 t-shirt. But that isn't the case with the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which is just persistently being promoted on Facebook from random libertarians versus, Free Talk Live, which is the primary promoter of ForkFest. So anyone who comes here from ForkFest is more likely to buy a T-shirt than someone who came here for the Porcupine Freedom Festival.
Yeah, right. And interestingly enough, a lot of the people who come to ForkFest are more knowledgeable about what's happening in the space within New Hampshire. So a lot of them already have T-shirts. So
also true.
Yeah,
it's always great to see people wearing them, right? It's fact. Support.
It is. It's absolutely awesome to see people, and I'm always amazed at the number of people in New Hampshire that have them and are wearing them at just every event that I go to.
That's awesome. So that's freethecrypto6.com. If you don't know what we're talking about, well, the short version is that on March the 16th, Ian Freeman, and Rich Paul, as well as Colleen Fordham, a 60-year-old grandmother, by the way, and Renee and Andy Spinella were all arrested and indicted by the FBI on various charges. All of them white-collar crimes.
Mm-hmm.
And for that, they kicked in our doors. They basically ripped the Free Talk Live studio apart and the residence there that contains it. I mean, they broke out windows and flew in drones. It was a horrific display of violence, all for white-collar crimes. The same thing could have been achieved just by showing up at noon or with a phone call saying, hey, we have a warrant for your arrest, and we're going to come arrest you.
Yeah, it was a no-knock warrant, too. So there wasn't any knocking at the door.
Yeah. So there were in some places, as it turned out.
Oh, there was a no-knock warrant for the Free Talk Live studio.
Okay,
as well as my house.
Yeah, as well as Aria's house. Yeah, you don't need to knock for those places. They like free speech. Now, the Spinellas and Colleen's, I think, as well were regular knock warrants.
Oh, interesting.
More coming up here from ForkFest. We'll be here until July the 4th. You can still get down here and hang out with us. There's no ticket cost. All you have to do is get here and get your site with Rogers Campground. More coming up. This is Free Talk Live.
Hi, I'm Derek J. To me, an activist's calling is to actively work to advance a cause. The cause for which I work is personal freedom. I believe my life is best when I engage in voluntary interactions and self-government. I reject the idea that anyone else has a higher claim to my life or my body than I do. I see people who call themselves the government as a threat to my personal freedom. I realize you may feel differently, but my relationship with the people who call themselves the government is completely involuntary. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com. On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. When you amp Free Talk Live, you get perks like access to the AMP-only Facebook group and AMP podcast. Visit amp.freetalklive.com. Are you a cryptocurrency advocate? The Crypto Tip is the ideal outreach tool to help new people discover cryptocurrency. It's a printable business card-sized tip that you can give to service providers, preferably in addition to a good cash tip. When the server scans the QR code, it'll bring up an explanation of cryptocurrency, how to install a wallet, and allow them to claim the tip. If they don't claim the crypto, you get your tip refunded to you after a time period you specify. Plus, if they do claim the tip, you get an email alert. Create as many tips as you want at cryptotip.org. That's cryptotip.org. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
It's Forkfest 2021, Forkfest 5 here at Rogers Campground. The only open and free Liberty Festival happening at Rogers Campground, evidently. Forkfest is returning to its old ways. I mean, it's disheartening. It's after the wonderful Porcupine Freedom Festival that we just had, it's so disheartening to see them not just anxious to return to their old ways, but adamant and even hostile that they must return to the old ways of reserving the entire campsite and making vendors register and pay a premium for Agora Valley, which I haven't heard they're going to do, but if they've reserved the camping sites, yes, Agora Valley is going to be significantly more expensive than a site down here.
Yeah, that was definitely a mistake.
And we've seen this happen. We watched this evolve. This is the reason that Forkfest came into existence, was because of this sort of nonsense.
At the very least, what I was able to confirm is these first 4 rows, the area commonly known as Agora Alley, is limited to vendors. So whether they're going to go as far as they have in years past and charge extra for those sites or not, they are restricting
well, they certainly will.
those.
I mean, they're not stupid. Those are premium sites.
One of the problems with charging extra for those sites is that vendors don't actually end up making more money off of those sites, so it doesn't actually incentivize them to be in Agora Valley.
No, that's why 2 years ago they moved like 2 or 3 rows down, so they didn't have to pay those same. The only one who remained was Sean.
You're not getting more traffic. Like it's funny because like I had
people are going to go where the vendors are, regardless of where the vendors are at.
I had a site in Agora Valley, and I have always had a site in Agora Valley, and it's like every year it's actually gotten worse in terms of the traffic flowing through since I've been here. And when we had like 1,700, I think, people in attendance at Porcupine Freedom Festival. We actually had more traffic that year, but every year since, it's just gotten worse and worse and worse as more and more vendors move out. And this year, even though there was quite a few vendors, the traffic didn't return. It was really bad. Now we had a popular product, so we sold a lot this year, but it still was really, really low. It's traffic flows. There was more traffic flows outside of Agora Valley, I think, than even inside Agora Valley.
Most likely. I mean, it certainly isn't going to be worth paying a premium or anything like that.
No,
And
definitely not.
We're just going to see vendors move again, just like they did 2 years ago, down where they don't have to pay an arm and a leg for a site. And evidently, the Free State Project considers the entire campground during the Porcupine Freedom Festival to be the Porcupine Freedom Festival. And to that end, they have already reserved the entire campground, every motel room, every camping site, every RV site, in order to ensure that people who purchase PorcFest tickets have a place to stay. Now, this sounds to me like there are a lot of really irresponsible people out there who bought tickets to an event without checking to see if they actually had a place to stay when they attended that event. Doesn't sound like a problem that, anyone else should be solving, but those reckless, irresponsible people who bought tickets to an event and didn't actually check to see if, there was space at the event. That's not the Porcupine Freedom Festival's fault. It's certainly not ForkFest's fault.
Well, and that's still not going to solve their problem. There are only 300 sites here, and if they're selling 2,500 tickets again next year, they're only ensuring that a guaranteed 300 sites worth of people are going to be available.
Does that 300 include motel rooms and
that I'm not
camping
sure.
sites
That
and
I'm not
everything?
sure. That's a number I've heard tossed around. I have not verified that with Rogers.
Okay.
There's only 300 campsites.
That's why
or
it
RV
was.
sites, or like
I think it's probably total.
Yeah, total of these
Campsites
of
and
these
RV
individual sites. Now, obviously, more than one person can stay on one RV site.
Yeah,
and
right.
We have a
So-
ton of people on our site.
Sure. And it's interesting because in past years they've kind of Rogers has frowned on that, but it's like if you have more people attending than there are campsites, you can't have like one or two people per campsite. You have to start sharing.
Yeah, well, and they do charge money. If you have more than 2 people on a campsite, they charge $5 per person per day. So they're still making money, and everyone's happy.
They've kind of Rogers has backed off on that because obviously they are making more money if you add people to your campsite and share. But
I don't know if they're making more money or not, but because of all of this, Somalia Fest is returning next year. It's going to be June the 17th through June the 19th. That's the pre-party for the Porcupine Freedom Festival. And of course, ForkFest will be occurring after from June the 27th through July the 3rd. The 4th is on a Monday next year, so I don't know how Rogers Campground is going to handle that, but it seems silly to tack on the extra day and have it be an 8-day festival because people arriving here on the 17th are going to be sick of this place by July the 3rd. I know that I'm already looking forward to returning to my nice air-conditioned house in Keene and just relaxing and not being here. But, I do love being here. That sounded really negative, but, one does get tired of camping.
there's only so many weeks in a row that you can go camping without the proper facilities to
Sure.
do so and
And I'm not even camping, I'm in a motel room, but even then, I mean, there's so much stuff I could be doing in Keene that I can't do here, and that's just creating a backlog of stuff I'm going to have to do when I get there. I mean, there's an entire server sitting in my studio waiting on me to build it that has arrived while I've been here
yeah,
at
I mean,
the
this
festival.
is a problem with busy people, right? It's
Sure.
like there's some of us who are really busy, and some people, they're working for somebody else, and they don't have anything else they really have to do, and they just get their days off, and it's a nice, fun, relaxing thing. But when you're working for yourself, or you're like in charge in some capacity, you got things to do, and they build up over time.
They do.
Yeah, they really do.
But we are here for ForkFest 2021 until July the 4th. That's the final day. It's June the 28th through July the 4th. You're still invited to come down here and hang out with us because we're going to be here. There's no ticket cost. All you have to do is get a site, which seems to me like the first thing you would want to do when looking into attending any festival is, where am I going to sleep? Like, to me, that's just such a common thing. I'm going to a music festival in September, right, in Louisville, Kentucky. And, like, before we even purchased the tickets for the festival, we made sure that there were motel rooms nearby at which we could reserve rooms. We bought the two things simultaneously. The idea of buying a ticket to the festival and then just showing up there and hoping I can find a room is absurd. I can't imagine anyone operating under that mindset. But clearly it was enough of a problem that the promotion of ForkFest as coinciding with the Porcupine Freedom Festival is, quote, promotion of theft of services or some sort of nonsense like that. I'm interested to hear what sort of services were rendered that we didn't pay for, but a lot of wild accusations being thrown around at Free Talk Live and ForkFest Party. It's disheartening to see them. I mean, this was the biggest year for the Porcupine Freedom Festival by far.
And one of the best years. I mean, I've gone to a couple of PorcFest prior. This is by far the most fun I've had.
Yes.
In that time.
In years. But part of that is because they weren't doing, all the, searching vehicles and all the other nonsense, right? It's like they actually took a more relaxed approach. And I think we all have a better time as a result. But if you revert back to some of the bad old ways, and it wasn't always
we
like
know
this.
how this goes.
It only was like this in a couple years ago, right? But a couple years ago, it got pretty bad. But the other Porcupine Freedom Festivals were much more relaxed. They were much more like ForkFest is now, and it was great as a result this year.
Yeah, it's frustrating that just a few days ago we were here opining that ForkFest had achieved its goal. We had refreed up the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and immediately after the end of it, the biggest year, the best year, they clamped back down. I wish it wasn't true. We started hearing the rumors yesterday, and I was like, there's no way that's true. I was just talking to the owner, literally less than 20, not the owner, the organizer.
Yeah, Dennis Pratt.
I didn't want to name him.
Oh, sorry.
It doesn't matter. I didn't name him. Literally less than 24 hours before, and we were literally in person having a conversation about how can we work together to promote both festivals and make them both the biggest and best festivals that we can. And less than 24 hours later, it's like, nope, you're not allowed here anymore because you're stealing from us somehow. And, we do regard the Porcupine Freedom Festival as this thing that just sort of happens down there at the bottom of the hill. But as far as I can tell, that's the most accurate description of what's been going on.
I mean, what's kind of interesting is we actually are participating in some respects in the Porcupine Freedom Festival,
Certainly.
So it's kind of disheartening to hear, an organization that you're effectively or a project you're supporting kind of come and attack you in reverse. It's like I don't like all of this, fighting. It's just
I don't need. It's a waste of time.
It is. We should be working together.
I agree
can
entirely.
Go very well together. There's no reason they should be separate.
They certainly did this year, and next year we were hoping to sandwich both sides of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and we're going to, whether we're at the Porcupine Freedom Festival or not. More coming up. This is Free Talk Live.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agristhosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agristhosting.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get 1 free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover springs her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com. You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live from Fort Fest 5. You're still invited to come down and hang out with us. We're here until July the 4th, and it's going to be an amazing event. It always is. There's still people coming in, I've noticed, and I'm happy to see it. And, of course, it's only Tuesday. Even more people will be here come Thursday, come Friday. It's going to be a great time. You can still get down here. Just get your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground. But before we get into what we actually were discussing, I want to tell you about Bitcoin.com. It's the best place to go to learn about cryptocurrency. Bitcoin.com. It has everything you need to learn on a sleek, easy-to-use, modern website. Just click Getting Started at the top, and it will take you to a number of short videos that will teach you the basics of cryptocurrency. But if you already know the basics, Bitcoin.com still has something to offer you. You can find their news articles at news.bitcoin.com. They collect all of these stories and they put it in a way that's clever and original, and it's relevant to you if you're interested in cryptocurrency. Check it out, news.bitcoin.com. Now, we were just having an off-air discussion. There may or may not be some frustration with the Free State Project regarding how they've decided to handle the Porcupine Freedom Festival next year. And someone asked, you know, I tend to donate money to the Free State Project. Is there somewhere else that I can donate money instead to show my disapproval of some of these moves? And of course, my answer was amp.freetalklive.com, because I mean, that's sort of my job here.
That's a little self-serving, but there's some others, right?
Well, it doesn't serve me at all.
Well, it's also incredibly effective. Free Talk Live is one of the biggest amplifiers for the Liberty voice in the world.
It is the largest libertarian radio show in the world.
Yeah, anything that directly gets Free Talk Live on more stations is going to be a huge impact for every dollar.
Yeah, and that's all that money is used for, is to advertise, market, and promote Free Talk Live, which is why it's called the AMP program.
And to get the ideas of liberty out there.
Yeah, and to provide people
That's the keyword.
And to provide people with a way of expressing their opinion. You know, it's a call-in show ordinarily where people can call in and express whatever opinion they have, even if they're a bigot, like Scott the bigot. We argue with them, we dispute them, and we put them in their place, but they have an opinion where we allow them to express it. Now, there are other good places to donate money to. Will, you mentioned one.
Yeah, the New Hampshire Liberty Alliance is a really effective organization here in New Hampshire. And what this is this is a group, they take every single bill that gets introduced to the New Hampshire legislature and they comb through it and they find out, is this a pro-liberty, an anti-liberty, or neutral piece of legislation?
God,
And
that sounds tedious.
It is. I could only imagine being a volunteer having to read through these bills, most of which will never actually make it anywhere. But they come out with these handbills that tell people how to vote in Senate. So when a representative shows up for their committee meeting, they have a list of things that have been vetted by volunteers saying this is a pro-liberty piece, this is an anti-liberty piece.
I mean, it would be nice if the representatives read the bill themselves, but as long as we have someone reading it for them, I guess.
The problem is there's a lot of bills, right?
Yeah.
And there's no way that every rep is going to be able to read every bill.
Well, we may be stumbling upon the issue here is that they're passing too many laws in the first place.
I agree. Totally agree with you.
I've never actually seen one of these bills. I could only imagine that the vast majority of them are highlighted in red, anti-liberty. It would probably likely just be a few of the ones that were actually rolling back the size and scope of government that actually do get their blessing.
I've never seen any of the bills that get put forward to the New Hampshire State House or the State Senate, but I know how the federal government handles its bills, and they're gargantuan monstrosities that are unfit to exist.
We do have a little bit of advantage in New Hampshire. So every bill, before it goes to the House and Senate, I guess, has to be heard by a committee, and the public has the opportunity to speak on those bills,
and then be ignored.
And it can be effectively killed in committee, so it never actually gets to the House or Senate. If it is a bad bill. So I have spoken on many bad bills, and also in favor of a few good bills as well that we've gotten passed mostly as a result of the migration movement and liberty-minded people moving to New Hampshire. So we are moving in the right direction. We don't have control, to get rid of the state effectively yet, but it's coming.
The other nice thing that they do is, in addition to those resources for representatives that are showing up to these things, they also rank the representatives themselves. So you'll end up at the end of the year with a scorecard that this was an A+ representing, meaning they voted pro-liberty every single vote, or this is a B, or this person got an F, meaning their status.
So they rank both the bills that get put forward to the representatives and the representatives themselves.
Correct, based on the voting history from those bills that they audited.
Now, I imagine the website for them is nhla.org.
I believe so.
That would be my best guess. I mean, it sounds reasonable.
If not, a DuckDuckGo search can probably locate them pretty quickly.
So that's the New Hampshire Liberty Alliance. There's also the Cato Institute. I'm not opposed to giving them money. I know that some people are, they're controversial for some reason, but they are pro-immigration and anti borders, as far as I can tell. So that's a good place if you want to donate to a libertarian cause.
And a lot of these are political bodies, NHLA,
Certainly.
Cato, and that's not really my cup of tea, but they do enough on their own to kind of use that as a amplifier to kind of get the message out, especially with their rating of the different representatives. So that it's not just flushing money down the political drain like a lot of other think tanks.
What about you, Chris? What would you recommend people do to donate money to the causes of liberty?
Honestly, I think those are some pretty good places to donate. There's probably lots of others, but as far as directly very libertarian causes, those are probably the best that you named right there. Just the AMP program and
the NHLA.
NHLA.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. The NHLA, from everything I've seen, there's a few of these in New Hampshire, aren't there? There's a competitor to the NHLA or something like that, or maybe I'm thinking they do it at the national level.
That I'm not sure.
I don't recall, but I know the New Hampshire Liberty Alliance has been talked about frequently on Free Talk Live, and the awesome work that they do.
They have been very consistent for years without really deviating from their core principles.
I would suggest, instead of donating money to the Free State Project, start putting that money aside and use it to move to New Hampshire and take part in the Free State.
Just got in here, that's nhliberty.org.
nhliberty.org. Cool.
Well,
Thank you.
I know they're always looking for volunteers to wade through these bills. They give you a little bit of training, what to spot for, how to spot things that are kind of traps where they're not really pro-liberty, even though they may look like it. And then you can review these bills and help them to come up with these lists.
Well, if
And
you
that
like
seems
reading tedious
pulling
legal
teeth.
documents, that sounds like the job for you. That's nhliberty.org, I think is what he just said. I've already forgotten it.
nhliberty.org.
nhliberty.org. Awesome. So I would still recommend the AMP program, but that's because I'm, a part of Free Talk Live and I care about it and I want it to reach a larger audience. But it's not a zero-sum game, right? I'm not saying don't donate to the NHLA and donate to Free Talk Live instead or any of that. I would suggest that donating to the Free State Project is probably not the best use of one's money. Instead, put it aside and use it to move to New Hampshire. To me, that would be better.
That is the best idea I've heard ever.
Well, just stopping donations to the Free State Project?
Don't even worry about donating. Just move.
Yeah.
People have to save up money in order to move.
Well, right. And that's what I mean. Save that money and move.
But if you have to choose, being physically here is more important than donating anywhere. But if you can do both, or if you're not able to move, these are good options.
New Hampshire certainly has a lot going for it. I mean, it's the home of, I think, the largest Freedom Fest in Vegas tends to be bigger than Pork Fest.
It is. It's more big tent. It attracts a lot of conservatives and things like that.
It's more Republican than it is. And it's curious. It's unclear at this point whether or not I'm going to be at Freedom Fest. I've emailed the organizer, and Mark was like, hey, just so you know, Arya is trans. She's not your ordinary trans person. I understand your reaction, but we still want to go to Freedom Fest, and I haven't gotten responses to that, so I don't think I'm going to be at Freedom Fest.
How is Freedom Fest okay, I understand it's more of a Republican crowd than it is a little bit liberty slanted Republican crowd, but it's
they're liberty-leaning conservatives, as I've been told. I mean, I'm sure there's some libertarians and voluntarists among them.
Yep.
I mean, there are every year that Free Talk Live goes, at the very least.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've heard that a lot of the attendance actually is, or a certain percentage of the attendance actually is very liberty-oriented, but it is definitely coming from a more conservative angle than a libertarian angle.
Yeah, and you don't get that here at Fork Fest, which is what I love about it so much. Just no one really cares about what you do at Fork Fest. Just don't violate the NAP. Be you, have a good time. And don't do anything stupid like jump a pool fence at 1 o'clock in the morning while drunk. That was not the best decision I've ever made, but it was fun. I had a good time last night.
People make mistakes, and I think people will forgive you here if you do make a mistake. But you got to recognize that you made a mistake.
Yeah, absolutely. But don't violate the non-aggression principle, and I don't think anyone here would have a problem with you. Yep. More coming up from Fork Fest. We're here until July the 4th. Get down here and hang out with us. This is Free Talk Live.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
The latest episode of Free Talk Live continues with Hour 3 up next after the news here at listen.freetalklive.com.
Asking for help. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. The Florida Division of Emergency Management is now asking the federal government for assistance as the search and rescue operation at a partially collapsed condo in Surfside is in its 6th day. 12 people are now confirmed dead. 149 are missing.
Our first responders, who are the focus of our attention as they continue around the clock on this mound, are continuing the brave and very, very difficult task, putting themselves in danger.
Miami-Dade County Mayor Daniela Levine Cava, who says she and her staff will meet with engineering, construction, and geology experts to try to determine why the building came down. President Biden made a trip to the Midwest to promote his infrastructure plan.
President Biden at a transit facility in La Crosse talking jobs that he says will be a direct result of getting past a nearly $1 trillion infrastructure deal.
This deal is going to more than double the funding directed to state and local programs that improve the safety of people and vehicles, including highway safety, truck safety, pipeline and hazard material safety.
The rebuilding of roads and bridges, electric vehicle charging stations, and broadband access. A deal that Republicans and Democrats have yet to come to a full agreement on. And as for why La Crosse for the sales pitch, it's surrounded by an area in southwest Wisconsin that President Biden lost in 2020. Jeff Manasso, Fox News.
Supreme Court has left in place the CDC ban on evictions imposed last year to combat the spread of COVID-19 and prevent homelessness during the pandemic, denying a request by a group of landlords to allow a lower court ruling to block the eviction moratorium to go into effect while the legal fight continues. The House has voted to replace statues and busts of Confederate leaders displayed in the U.S. Capitol. America is listening to Fox News.
Nation. School's out for summer, but if your business is running QuickBooks, you'll never get a break. NetSuite by Oracle is the #1 cloud financial system, no matter how big your business grows. With visibility and control of your financials, inventory, HR, e-commerce, and more, NetSuite is everything you need to grow all in one place. NetSuite is offering a one-of-a-kind financing program to those ready to graduate.
Head to netsuite.com/Fox right now. netsuite.com/Fox.
A mother in Los Angeles has been detained for questioning after deputies found 3 dead children inside a home.
LA County Sheriff's deputies say they responded to a home in East Los Angeles after being told there were 2 children inside not breathing. Turned out to be 3 children, all under the age of 3. Despite efforts to save them, they were all pronounced dead at the scene. A lieutenant said there was no obvious signs of trauma. He also said that the mother had been detained for questioning and that there had been another person inside the house whom they believe may have called them to the home. Earlier this year, in another section of Los Angeles, a woman was arrested and accused of murdering her 3 children. They were also all under the age of 3. Jessica Rosenthal, Fox News.
29 more men are suing Ohio State University over what they claim is the school's failure to stop sexual abuse decades ago by sports doctor Richard Strauss, who died in 2005. More than 400 alumni have lodged similar allegations against Strauss. OSU has reached nearly $47 million in settlements for 185 plaintiffs. A cruise company with a new requirement for those departing from Florida.
Royal Caribbean says unvaccinated guests over the age of 12 must purchase travel insurance for Florida cruises. The policy must cover COVID-19 related medical expenses, quarantine, and evacuation. Florida's government bans companies from requiring proof of vaccines. The policy follows 2 unvaccinated teenagers tested.
On March 16th this year, government task forces violently raided the New Hampshire Bitcoin Embassy, the Mighty Moose Mart, the homes of Aria DiMezzo, Andy and Renee Spinella, Colleen Fordham, a grandmother, and perhaps most relevant, the studios of Free Talk Live. The Crypto Six were arrested. 4 were released on bail conditions, but Ian Freeman was held hostage for 69 days. Rich Paul, also known as Nobody, remains captive. We've consulted attorneys who say no crime even appears to have been committed, but that didn't stop the Joint Thug Task Force from ripping out wires from our broadcast stacks, taking Free Talk Live off the air, resulting in a violation of our and your First Amendment rights. You can visit thecrypto6.com to help, but as importantly, contact other media and tell them about this outrage. This case is likely to set precedent for cryptocurrency use well into your future. Help our fight for liberty and financial freedom at thecrypto6.com.
Shortly after posting for the 10,000th time on his Twitter account earlier today, despite only ever accumulating 15 followers, local man Aaron Gartner announced he's about ready to quit the popular microblogging site.
Well, I opened my account about 2 years ago and tweeted pretty much every day since, and it didn't really turn out like I expected. I thought, once I hit 8,000 tweets, I could get some traction, start getting more followers, but it never really happened. I mean, I gave it my best shot, I guess, but I think I'm about done here.
He has yet to be followed by anyone beyond a handful of friends, family members, and seemingly inactive accounts.
This one time I tweeted out a pretty good joke about how out of control Lindsay Lohan is, and it actually got me a retweet. It was from this guy in Argentina I don't know, who doesn't have any followers, and he's not following anyone else. Oh, hold on a sec. Apparently my aunt's following me now. Cool.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live from Fork Fest 5 here at Rogers Campground. We're here until July the 4th. You should come down and hang out with us. I want to say thank you to Jake Leonard. We were talking about the AMP program earlier, and it was a really good time for me to do it, but I didn't because I'm not very good at my job. Jake Leonard is a gold level member, which means he chooses to give $10 per month to the AMP program. We don't ask that much. It's just $5 per month to join the AMP program. Comes with a number of cool little perks like an AMP-only call-in line, an AMP-only Facebook group for those people who are still on Facebook. I'm currently banned from Facebook, which is pretty typical for me. So, Jake Leonard, thank you so much for your contributions. The reason you should join the program, though, isn't for any of the perks. It's because you like the idea of Free Talk Live providing a platform for anyone to express their opinions and get it heard on close to 200 radio stations. So, Jake, thank you so much for your contributions. We hope you continue amplifying the show. Now, we are here on site at Forkfest, and we're joined by Zeppin, who you moved to New Hampshire, right?
Yes, I've been here for about 3 weeks. I planned my move for the past year and a half, and I couldn't be happier to be here.
Okay, awesome. Is this your first year at Porkfest and Forkfest?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so, wow, okay, that's a new one. I think you're the first person I've spoken with who didn't end up moving to New Hampshire as almost a direct result of these festivals.
Yeah. The first exposure that I had was with the 101 Reasons film. I happened to stumble upon it on YouTube. And then I showed my wife it. We were both looking for a place to move. And so we're both libertarians, so this seemed to be the obvious choice. Started to listen to Free Talk Live. I've been listening nearly every day since then.
Awesome, thanks. Glad to hear it.
Yeah, and I'm so happy to be here. The activism is insane. At this point, if I really wanted to, I can make any transaction that I want in cryptocurrency. Yeah. I currently pay my rent in Monero. I pay. I can buy groceries and stuff with Bardo Farms. Like there's all of these different options to be able to use crypto on a day-to-day basis here, and that's going to be what ends the state. That and 3D printing of firearms.
Amen. I absolutely agree. I think just about the only thing that you can't pay directly cryptocurrency for in New Hampshire would be gasoline. I think that's probably the only thing that you... Chris is saying that you can't. Chris, I remind you that you're sitting in the back, not on a microphone, so talking is not very helpful. But evidently you can, which is new knowledge for just about everyone I've talked to in New Hampshire over the last year. I know that Jay Noon has a store that he frequents every once in a while where the cashiers there will take cryptocurrency from him and then put USD in the cash register on his behalf, but that's not really buying gasoline with cryptocurrency.
Fair enough. That individual is he works there, and he regularly does take cryptocurrency though for gas. His parents, I believe, own the place, so it's sort of half true,
which is better than nothing.
And Ian and a bunch of other people have been over the years getting gas every time they go through that area too. So it's definitely something you can definitely do.
Sure, at one gas station across the entire state.
We've also had another
I mean,
gas station that also up in northern New Hampshire. It went out of business a couple years ago, but
let's also not even mention it. It doesn't count. It's out of business
currently.
Probably because they
enough.
didn't take cryptocurrency.
No, they did take cryptocurrency.
Oh. Well,
that's what I'm saying.
That's an unfortunate failure story then.
Well, the only way that we're going to get more gas stations to take cryptocurrency is if more people move to New Hampshire so that that demand is present. And currently...
certainly you have to ask, right?
Right.
Excuse me.
Precisely.
You have to ask business owners and their employees and stuff like that. You just have to go in repeatedly until finally you connect with the owner. You establish a connection with them, and you just continue asking them whether or not they're interested in taking cryptocurrency. And eventually, hopefully, you'll get a yes.
Yeah, and I think that once crypto becomes a means of exchange rather than a number goes up sort of investment, that's when crypto is going to reach critical mass. And currently,
well, Bitcoin is, as far as I can tell, Bitcoin is an asset, and it's going to stay an asset because that's what the miners want. I mean, they don't want people actually being able to use Bitcoin because that cuts into their profits.
It is almost kind of like a currency if you're making a purchase large enough that $5 or $50 isn't going to really sway it one way or the other, but you sure can't buy a sandwich with it.
Yeah, I've spent Bitcoin once in the 3 years that I've lived in Keene, and that was for like $800 in car repairs and maintenance to it. And
right.
Sure, if I'm spending $800 using BTC is worth it because the $5 fee is negligible on top of that, and it's a good way to get rid of the BTC that I didn't want. But in general, for your sandwiches and all of these places in Keene that accept cryptocurrency, it's going to be by and large Bitcoin Cash that people are using.
Yeah.
And with the purchase like that, you can wait the hour or whatever for it to go from $50 to $5 if you feel like it. So.
Sure, because you're not in any particular hurry. And,
exactly.
I mean, generally, the owners know that we're not going to try any kind of replace by fee or anything like that in the first place. So, I mean, and I don't even think that's possible with most cryptocurrency wallets. Most of the good wallets don't support replace by fee anyway. I think Koinami now does, but they're not one of the good wallets in the first place.
Oh.
Well, you got to remember that Koinami, on their desktop version, they took people's recovery phrases and they sent it via clear text to Google to be spell checked. So they basically leaked everyone who installed the desktop version of Koinami's recovery phrase onto the internet for anyone to intercept. I mean, it's not hilarious. Plenty of people had their cryptocurrency stolen as a result of this.
Oh, I hadn't heard about that part of it.
It was big on Reddit. Koinami denied any wrongdoing, and they say, no one actually had their cryptocurrency stolen. That's not true at all. And then you have these people who are on Reddit. It's like, yes, it's true. $500 of Bitcoin was taken out of my Koinami wallet, and it was because they basically gave their private keys to someone because Koinami didn't know what they were doing and made a very silly decision. So I would strongly advise everyone to avoid Koinami as a wallet and instead use Edge or Exodus.
Yeah, non-custodial wallets tend to be better for that sort of thing. There's Edge. I personally use Cake for Monero, but even better than that, if you want even more, host your own node. Become your own bank. It's getting easier and easier to learn how to do these things. I started off knowing nothing about technology whatsoever, 6-7 months ago, and I'm just slowly becoming more and more proficient in it all. It hasn't been easier to pick up these skills than it is now.
It's surprisingly simple technology, and of course the AnyPay software that's widely used across New Hampshire just makes it that much easier. All you have to do is open your wallet and scan a QR code and choose which cryptocurrency you want to send and hit the send button and you're done, right? It's easier than using a card. It may not be easier than using cash, but it's certainly faster and simpler.
And more moral.
Yeah, it's certainly more moral, yeah, because the USD obviously is going to help drop bombs on, brown kids in Africa.
And one of the things to point out here is, like, yeah, if you just want to do transactions, just do transactions. But the fact that it is possible for the first time in over a century for people to start becoming bankers is, I mean, if history is an indicator on that one, I mean, that has been an incredible source of revenue for a lot of terrible people.
You mean banking?
Yeah,
yes.
banking.
I just wanted to be clear on that.
Whereas now it can be an incredible source of revenue if the past is any indication for really good people.
Well, we're seeing a lot of fascinating things happening in the last several years. Among those was the ability of people to, just the average person, to invest in stocks, and we saw what they did with GameStop. And of course, institutional investors got really angry about it, just like the institutional banks are really angry about cryptocurrency, and they're cheating, just like
like they do.
Yes, they're all liars and thieves and cheaters, and the less you use their money, the less power they have. Cryptocurrency and gold and silver are the best ways of not using their money. Plus, then you're not paying to drop bombs on people or paying for the drug war.
That's something else, too. So during PorkFest and ForkFest, for that matter, I'd say that I was able to do 90-ish% of my transactions with Monero. I did one Bitcoin Cash transaction, but actually the thing that has the broadest acceptability, because those other two were a little hard, was goldbacks. So goldbacks, that can be accepted, at small businesses. It's great.
The goldbacks are absolutely amazing.
And literally as easy to use as cash.
Zeppin, thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to New Hampshire. Are you staying until July the 4th?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. We're looking forward to it. More coming up. This is Free Talk Live.
The Terran Federation and the Terran League have been killing each other for decades. Sheltered, wealthy, and light years from the threat, the members of the 500 have no interest in changing that. When Rear Admiral Terrence Murphy is given governorship of a backwater system, a risk-free path to wealth and power is his for the taking. But Murphy is a man of honor, duty, and responsibility. He intends to stop the killing, whatever the cost. Governor, by David Weber and Richard Fox, from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Uncovering the secrets and exposing the lies. That's what the readers of freedomsphoenix.com get every day. freedomsphoenix.com, constantly providing the information, the real news about government policies, and the real relationship we all have with the coercive government. The real condition of the economy, innovations in technology, breakthroughs in energy, health, and computer science. Learn the truth well before it's admitted to in the lamestream media. The corporate media, nothing more than distributors of government propaganda, but now there's an alternative. freedomsphoenix.com. Constant news updates on the issues that affect your life in the most important ways. With liberty and property under constant attack, freedomsphoenix.com provides the understanding behind the propaganda, and it encourages the participation of its readers. Go to freedomsphoenix.com. That's freedoms with an S, phoenix.com. freedomsphoenix.com. The revolution between the ears has already happened.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. Bitcoin.com has launched a trading platform at local.bitcoin.com, allowing you to buy or sell Bitcoin Cash via dozens of payment methods like PayPal, Venmo, bank deposit, remittances, or meeting in person with cash. There are no ID requirements to sign up for and use the site, and all communications between buyers and sellers are encrypted. Finally, a global trading platform that respects your privacy. Visit local.bitcoin.com to get started trading Bitcoin Cash. local.bitcoin.com.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live from Fork Fest 2021 here at Rogers Campground. You're still invited to join us. It's happening for another 5 or 6 days. It's really easy when you're up here to lose track of what day it is. I know the date at the very least, but that's because it's sitting here right in front of me. I don't actually, I believe it's Tuesday.
It is.
Awesome.
Yeah.
At least I got that part correct. Now, we've been talking about moving to New Hampshire and all of these awesome things. As it turns out, I'm not here as a result of the Free State Project, really. I am, but it's a very indirect thing, right? Mm-hmm. I'm here because Will Coley was here. Will Coley was here because Ian Freeman was here. Ian Freeman is here because of the Free State Project, but the first time I came to the Porcupine Freedom Festival, it was just with Muslims for Liberty and Will Coley. I didn't even know what the Free State Project was. I had never heard of it.
So there's a larger migration movement to New Hampshire, and the Free State Project Incorporated is effectively just an entity that was set up to help promote the Free State Project.
Yes, but the freedom migration is ongoing, and it's, you know, you can't just go by the numbers that the FSP has put forward because it doesn't include people like me.
Right.
There's a lot of people who are, you know, part of the larger migration movement that have not been included in the Free State Project Incorporated numbers, which kind of is not optimal because it makes it look like there's fewer people here than there actually are. But if you start looking at things like, oh, how many representatives do we have? Well,
I would rather look at the activism than the number of libertarian politicians that we put in office. To me, the activism is far more important.
I agree.
Push back against the state instead of, electing new representatives. That said, we do have a state apparatus and we do have representatives, so it's better to have libertarian representatives than non-libertarians.
And it's tough to assign numerics to activism.
Sure.
Right. I mean, I think the only point that I was making with that was that, there's 30 representatives for this session, I guess, which basically are people who moved here and signed the Free State Project Incorporated, statement of intent, basically.
Sure.
Whereas we have about 80 libertarians in the House. So,
awesome. Well, certainly a lot of people have come here who weren't really affiliated with the Free State Project or who weren't signers of the Free State Project intent to move or anything like that. I know Ian was such a signer. He's actually the 420th signer, funnily enough.
Nice.
Right. It's suiting for Ian.
It is.
Yeah, I'm also a signer, but a lot of when I sign, and here's the thing, like a lot of us signed prior to some things happening and certain people being on boards and kind of undermining some of what's been going on. So
incorporating seems to have been a poor decision for the Free State Project.
It was. There used to be a membership, and members got to vote, and then it went. Basically, that got dissolved, and it wasn't in New Hampshire. And then in New Hampshire, they basically set it up as an incorporation, and there is no membership. You're a participant,
just a board,
right? So it's just a board of, I think, like 6 to 10 people.
And they make some bizarre decisions, this board.
Yeah, you
a
got
completely unaccountable corporate board. What could possibly go wrong?
You basically have to pay to be on it. So
really,
yeah. So basically,
who would want to do that?
It ensures that effectively only people with a lot of money actually get on the board. And I think you also have to be like voted on the board too. So like, yeah, it definitely favors.
So it's a very sort of buddy kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's disheartening. And I mean, we've seen what this board is doing versus what libertarians who love PorcFest or the Porcupine Freedom Festival are doing. Like, it irritated me to listen to the Bitcoin maxis next door just running their mouths about stuff that they didn't seem to really know anything about. But they were still welcome here because the campground wasn't as tightly controlled as it had been in previous years, right? It'll be interesting to see whether or not those sorts of events occur next year at the Porcupine Freedom Festival. Because those sorts of things weren't here 2 years ago. If you wanted to have microphones and sit up and talk or something like that, you pretty much had to go through the Free State Project in order to do it, or the Porcupine Freedom Festival. So it's going to be interesting to see how next year goes. It's unclear whether or not Free Talk Live is going to be here next year for the Porcupine Freedom Festival, but we will, of course, be here for Somalia Fest, which is the pre-party where evidently a lot of people still show up early and have a good time and start setting up, and no one's really vending, I don't think, during Somalia Fest because they're still setting up. Are there?
There's definitely vendors here.
Were you here?
For both events, yeah.
You were here for Somalia Fest this year?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I follow you. I'm sorry. I'm thinking you're talking about ForkFest still.
Oh no.
Oh, this year, not
yeah.
not next year. Obviously,
I would
nobody's here for
definitely
next
agree
year yet.
that the people that, in my experience, when I've been here early, the people that get here early really haven't set up to vend. It's just sort of setting up camp, hanging around campfires, chatting, talking about liberty and what's going on in the world and strange ideas and things like that.
It's always been a good time. I didn't know people were still arriving early, or I would have come early this year as well. So I didn't even know that was still ongoing. But since it is, let's take advantage of it. Let's call it Somalia Fest, and let's plan to be here.
Absolutely.
While keeping ForkFest the cool kids after party. Because that's the best way to characterize it, right? It's a much more narrower scope of people who attend ForkFest than do the Porcupine Freedom Festival.
It's interesting to call it like an after party. I mean, there's still a lot of people here who didn't attend the PorcFest, so.
But it is technically an after party.
Well,
I guess it is.
There are a lot of people who go to the prom after party that didn't go to the prom. So, or there's plenty of people who go to the Super Bowl after party that didn't actually sit there and watch the Super Bowl with you, but.
Yeah, whether you go to the Porcupine Freedom Festival or not, ForkFest still occurs after, and ForkFest, we've always characterized it as a party.
Sure.
It isn't just a party. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to do and all of that, but it's ForkFest.party for a reason.
There's not even an official name, so...
Well, there's nothing official at all about it, right? This is when we promoted as the dates. So.
Yeah, the events effectively are, it is what people or participants make of it. So
yes, ForkFest is whatever you create it to be, really, and that's what I love about it. It just fits so well with Free Talk Live and everything else that's going on. ForkFest is your festival to make however you want it to be.
Yep, zero hierarchy, 100% network. If you want people to show up at a talk that you're going to give, well, network with them. Go on to forkfest.party, or I forget what the other, because it's unofficial.
Well, there was forkfest.com, I think, was the...
There you go.
That's a competing, it's actually more of a complimentary site, I think.
I would say is complimentary. And it also didn't come to fruition because the people behind that aren't here this year, so
it's true.
It never happened.
They were planning to be here, but they didn't make it.
Yeah, a bit of a thing happened in March, for those who aren't aware, and that's part of the reason that a lot of people who you would expect to be here aren't here.
Yeah.
This is true too. There's still a lot of people here, though.
If you want people showing up at your at your talk, network with them. Go on to the website to announce it, and just talk to other people here.
Absolutely. The unofficial Telegram chat is one of the best ways of doing that. Of course, the radios are also a really effective way of doing that. Unfortunately, no one is here selling the radios that are used so widely. I wish I had thought about it in advance, because we certainly could have acquired some and had them pre-programmed and ready to go.
Interestingly, I actually did, but I got
It never even occurred to me, man.
Well, what happened was I got regulated radios that I couldn't program the channels for, and I thought they were just better quality.
The bio things that everyone's using.
Because the quality is more variable, and these were not going to be variable, but then they locked them down and it didn't advertise that clearly. So,
more coming up. This is Free Talk Live.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it. And once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world. So I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here. And I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better, too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at mymagicmud.com. FTL20 mymagicmud.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live from Fork Fest 2021 here at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. There's still plenty of time for you to come down here and join us. We're here until July the 4th, but we're also already looking forward to next year. It's happening in 2022. Unofficially, it's happening from June the 27th through July the 3rd here at Rogers Campground. Now, Fork Fest this year and next, totally decentralized, which means there's no one in charge and there are no tickets. All you have to do is get your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground this year until July the 4th. Next year, June 27th through July the 4th. Fork Fest is your event, so you create the experience that you want others to enjoy. Find out more about it and join the unofficial Telegram chat at forkfest.party. Come and hang out with us, forkfest.party. Now, it's easy to forget here at Rogers Campground that the rest of the world is going on. They're doing their thing. What the hell? I mean, if you thought you didn't have to be afraid anymore, I have bad news. There's a Delta variant of COVID-19. Have you heard anything about it?
Not really, other than it exists, but I want to think, oh my God, I'm going to die again.
I mean, they make it sound so scary, right? The Delta variant. What happened to, I mean, They had long series of letters and numbers to identify the various variants.
I did hear that it, I think, was supposed to be more deadly or something than the other variants or something like that too, which I thought this is probably more fear mongering and stuff.
Well, I've got bad news. As the highly contagious Delta variant of the coronavirus gained traction around the world, the World Health Organization urged vaccinated people to continue to wear masks and social distance, saying, quote, now, this is Mary Angela Samau of the World Health Organization. Vaccine alone won't stop community transmission. People need to continue to use masks consistently, be in ventilated spaces, hand hygiene, the physical distance, avoid crowding. This still continues to be extremely important, even if you're vaccinated, when you have a community transmission ongoing. Now, I don't think they're going to be able to play this game. I really don't. I don't think Americans are going to, I don't think people across the world are going to put up with a return to lockdowns and social distancing and masks and all of that nonsense.
On the one hand, I hope you're right, I think. But on the other hand, I don't have faith in humanity.
I don't either, but I look around and people are so sick of this. They're so sick of wearing masks that I know people who got vaccinated just because they were sick of wearing masks. And they knew that.
So do I.
Yeah, and they knew that they would, not have to wear a mask under the new nightmarish medical authoritarian hellscape that we have found ourselves in if they were vaccinated. And so they got vaccinated, and now they're being told, oh yeah, your vaccine, it doesn't actually help you against this variant of the cold because it's a cold and it evolves too quickly for a vaccine to possibly work. Although somehow, by magic, they managed to conceive a way to create a vaccine that presumably would have worked against the common cold. Except evidently it doesn't, because like all colds, COVID-19 evolves too quickly.
I thought it was kind of humorous how, the Free Talk Live co-hosts all got sick, but it took a year for it to happen. And in the end, the world didn't end, and everybody survived. Everybody was all right. It was some people had it worse than others, but
I think Captain was the only one who really had it worse. Myself, I was sore and tired for about a 24-hour period.
Yeah, sounds about right.
I lost it was a flu-like symptoms for about 24 hours, and my boss finished my shift for me that night, and I went home, I rested, and the next day I felt fine, other than the loss of smell or taste. That one got me because that went on for like 7 weeks, not being able to smell or taste anything.
Yeah, it was so mild for me if I had it, if I don't even know if I had it, like that's how mild it was.
Well, I'm 100% confident I had it because I lost my sense of smell and taste. And
I didn't have
that.
It's
a total loss, right? It's not like anytime you're sick, your nasal passages are congested. You can't smell as effectively as you could when you weren't sick. It diminishes your sense of smell and taste when you're sick. That just is a thing that happens. But with COVID-19, it is a complete and total lack of smell and taste. It raises all sorts of issues, like you can't taste food, and that's unpleasant. But it wasn't life-threatening. It wasn't severe. It was just annoying as hell.
Did you ever get your taste back?
I did.
Okay.
But it's still not 100% normal, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's still not where it should be. And there were periods after about 2 weeks where it would like come and go. For a brief second, I would be able to smell something or taste something, and then it would be gone again. And eventually, yes, it did just come back, but it's still not quite right. Like, I can taste the Monster that I've been drinking, but not with the same impact that I would have tasted it, 6 months ago. But yes, it did eventually come back, at least most of the way, and I survived. Everyone who got COVID-19 at the studio survived, and as you said, it took more than a year for this to happen. Now, this isn't just more than a year for people who were socially distancing and wearing masks everywhere and not being social. No, a lot of us were more social throughout the last year, myself in particular, than at any other point in my life. I went to more parties, I attended more gatherings, I did more reckless things, all not wearing a mask, and yet it took what we believe to be a cancer patient in and out of the hospital to finally give any of us COVID-19.
Yeah, it's interesting. Initially it wasn't clear what was going on, and I was kind of paying attention in the very early days. But after about 2 months, it became clear, like once it hit the United States, that it just wasn't going to be substantial enough of and have a substantial enough of an impact to be worrying and shutting economies down and undermining our financial stability and all that other stuff for the small number of people that were going to pass away as a result, because we always are having small numbers of people pass away from all sorts of other diseases and things and things we could potentially reduce, but we don't, because it's financially and morally unconscionable.
Well, that's what they're saying now, is that, every flu season now, people are going to be expected to wear masks and all this other nonsense. And I'm just, in the winter, I will tolerate it to a greater degree. I won't choose to do it. But if a business owner says, hey, you have to wear a mask to be in here, and I want to go into that business and I can't just go somewhere else that won't require that of me simply and easily, then sure, I will put on a mask. But that's when it's 30 degrees outside.
I tend to be more okay with putting on a mask when I know it's, a business owner who wants me to put it on, as opposed to just some stupid policy, like at a big brick and mortar retailer that is basically there because of government, because of government.
The big corporations, nonsense. The major retailers, they didn't really force people to wear masks. I never ran into that in Walmart or CVS or Walgreens, because they're too big for the city of Keene to crack down on them. The city of Keene isn't going to go after CVS because they don't have the money. But they will go after that little mom and pop shop.
My understanding of what happened with like Walmart is it was very dependent on the management of a particular Walmart to decide some of those things. So I know in Keene we never had any problems, except for one time where one younger person was like a 16-year-old basically went in and had a problem within our community.
Sure.
But I do know that some people in our larger community outside of Keene at other Walmarts in New Hampshire did run into problems.
So is that the discretion of the person who managed the store, essentially?
That is my understanding of it, and that's why there was different experiences in different places as far as like Walmart and policy is concerned, because it wasn't a single policy for all Walmarts. It was now there might be some stores like maybe all Targets did have a single policy, but for Walmart that wasn't the case.
Okay. Well, individual stores may have had their own policies, but a lot of this was a result of pushback from employees as well. Like we had Bull Moose here in the Northeast. Most people don't know, but they're a gaming store, a music store, a movie store,
entertainment
in general.
Yeah.
And they closed down several stores because the employees were unhappy with not being able to force customers to wear masks. So all the employees ended up getting fired. Basically, they attempted to strong arm management into giving them their way, and management was like, yeah, no, we hire you and tell you what to do. You don't tell us what to do. You're fired. And it caused a bit of an uproar here. More coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
If you're looking for work, the person you are applying to may be even more nervous than you are. And the way things are now, your references have never been more important. Here are 3 tips. First, know that employers are checking. Every hire is under the microscope these days. Second, they won't just be checking references you provide. Figure that all of your ex-employers will get a call and be asked, would you hire him or her again? Third, assume you will be Googled. So before you apply, remove all those party animal photos from your Facebook page. Even if you're not in the job market, effective communication skills have never been more important, with money and attention so scarce now. For more tips for job seekers and getting better results in all your day-to-day communication, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get 1 free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
There are basically 2 types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live.
I mean, what I'm saying is that if you do something that could cause harm, you should be prosecuted for it.
Private Manning was prosecuted for it. Private Manning was in jail for 7 years. Private Manning was given a 35-year sentence, which is by far and away the largest sentence ever given to a person that was a whistleblower.
Not a whistleblower.
There's a video of a helicopter gunning down reporters. That's a war crime.
But ultimately, the people in the military are following the orders of thugs and liars and criminals in Washington, D.C., and as much information and as much light can be shed about their activities should be shed on their activities.
And gunning down journalists and then laughing about it is a war crime. And anybody that's defending that is an absolutely horrible, despicable person.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, broadcast from Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. We are here until July the 4th. You're more than welcome to come hang out with us. It's a really good time. There's more people just constantly showing up, and it's a beautiful day, beautiful weather, and thankfully it's not raining. I haven't looked at the forecast because it's New Hampshire. The forecast is made up and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's nice. It's a little warm, but we got a nice breeze, and
Well, it's late June. I would expect it to be warm. I mean, it's officially summer.
It is the mountains, so it's not as bad. If you're somewhere else, you're probably getting it worse.
I imagine Keene is quite a bit hotter than here.
It is.
And I mean, of course, the Pacific Northwest is just getting railed with 110-degree temperatures and stuff like that. I mean, it sucks up there.
It's actually bearable here, though. I mean, it's a little warm, but it's bearable warm,
It's bearable in the shade.
I should be clear about that. Definitely in the shade, it's bearable. But without air conditioning.
I was just standing in the sun talking to Crosby, and I was just like, God, it is hot.
Well, don't do that.
No, I mean, that's where he was, so that's where I stood next to him, right?
Yeah, Crosby, come here. Move out of the sun.
But in the shade, it actually feels really good. And, of course, we are here on vacation. Not everyone is on vacation. Some people, instead, have spent the entire last year on vacation, getting extra unemployment benefits, getting paid more to essentially stay at home and do nothing than they could ever be paid in the workforce. And every time I bring up the subject, I'm going to say it. It's not fair to say, well, companies can just pay their employees more if they're not able to compete with the unemployment benefits.
I want to know where I'm supposed to get that money from as a business owner when my employees are told to stay home and I'm supposed to pay them, and then I'm supposed to stay home and not work, and there's no money coming in.
Didn't you hear the government would give you that money as long as you used it to pay your employees to sit at home and do nothing?
Not enough to keep the business going.
No, certainly not.
This is why fleets of cars got sold off and ships got sold off, and now we have a problem with there's too much demand relative to the supply. Because you can't shut everything down and then turn it back on with a switch. It's not like a light switch. You can't just turn the light back on by flipping a switch. It doesn't work that way.
Well, these unemployment benefits are coming to an end, and Americans are finally looking to get back to work. Now, at my other job, which I hated to do it because I've seen the staffing issues there, but with me needing to do Free Talk Live, I just can't continue to do the 45 to 55 hour a week thing there. I hated to do it because there is a skeleton staff, and it's not just here; it's everywhere you look. There are hiring signs everywhere.
There's businesses that have shut down. A lot of businesses have shut down because they don't have enough wait staff.
As businesses struggle, this coming to us from Fox Business. As businesses struggle to onboard new employees, a number of companies started offering one-time bonuses in hopes of luring people back to work, an incentive that's proven popular so far, according to new studies. But it's not so popular among some people. I've seen some signs on social media that say something like, come in and start now, and we'll pay you $13.50 an hour or whatever. But then it's got a little note on the bottom that says this includes the extra $1 per hour that you're getting paid until like October the 1st of 2021 or something. So, I mean, it's like, okay, come in and work for us and get a guaranteed pay cut in 3 months. Not a very popular model, I would suggest. But I've also seen, companies in Florida. I think there was a McDonald's in Florida that was paying people $50 just to come in and interview. That's not even to take the job. It's just to come in and sit down for an interview because staffing is that problematic.
I have to say, I've done some pretty lengthy interviews in my lifetime, and they should be paying people for those interviews if they're going to be as long as they can get. You can get some interviews where they interview you 3 or 4 times with an hour each time, and it's like, you going to pay me for this?
Well, certainly not. But the number of job listings that are advertising hiring bonuses has more than doubled compared with last year. Findings published by Indeed show. At the same time, job searches for signing bonuses, retention bonuses, and cash incentives have surged 134% since January. Now, a lot of people are still not looking for work. They're going to milk these unemployment benefits to the very last. But if you started applying for a job a month ago, you had a wider range of options to choose from, and you were going to get offered better stuff than if you waited until today to start looking for a job because other people beat you to it. Now, with unemployment existing, it creates more jobs than there are employees to fill those jobs. That's just what a price floor does by definition, and labor has a price floor. That creates a surplus of labor, which means there are jobs not being done, which means employees or the labor force, people who provide labor, have to compete with one another in order to acquire the job.
And you might actually see more of those things where they start paying you to do the interview process because...
Well, that's what this article is saying.
Well, I mean, you are not getting as much as you used to if you actually land the job. I mean, the prices are going up, and the price floor for all of its downsides, people don't renegotiate their wages, and as that stays stagnant and the prices go up through money printing, you're just not getting as much. And especially when you account for the welfare and unemployment that you're competing with, really.
It's amazing that people think that increasing the minimum wage is somehow going to help the situation. It's not. It's just going to make everyone who makes $7.26 to $14.99 an hour equally poor. You're taking all of the relatively skilled craftsmen or the assistant managers or the managers or whatever, and you're giving them the same wage that you're giving the person who, sweeps the floor at the end of the night.
Well, it's an artificial solution with a whole lot of problems to a problem that is created by printing money. Because, I mean, the fact of the matter is that
this problem is created by putting a price floor on the cost of labor. If there was no minimum wage, there would be plenty of jobs and plenty of people would be doing them.
The people who are doing minimum wage jobs never renegotiate their wages. I mean, pretty much
if you're
never.
doing a minimum wage job, you probably don't have the standing with the company to argue for a higher wage.
Right. So
Because
as the
you
prices
can be
go up
replaced.
and the price of labor doesn't go up, you end up in a worse and worse situation. Not by any fault of the companies or of the people, but of the money printing.
Yeah, and they don't see it that way, though. All they see is, I can be making $15 an hour. They don't understand the havoc that's going to wreak on prices.
Often the market will determine a price that's higher than the minimum wage anyway. I mean, in all practical terms, like look at New Hampshire. New Hampshire is $7.25, but I don't know anybody who makes $7.25. Most of starting off, it's
cashier
like
at Walmart is going to
$10.
make more than that.
Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. And even lesser jobs that require even less skills than that, they're starting at $10
requires less
or
skills
more.
than a cashier. Keeping in mind, I've been a cashier.
Yeah, I know.
It's one of the least skilled jobs out there. You could literally train a monkey to do it.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree.
It is frequently replaced with a touchscreen.
Yeah, I mean, it's
self-serve.
Which I love, by the way. And I know a lot of people are like, that's anti-human. I'm not going to do Walmart's job for them. I'm like, I don't think you understand. This means I can go to the store, get my stuff, check out, and leave without ever interacting with another human being. To me, that's the appeal, right? When I want to socialize with people, I will socialize with people. When I want to go shopping, I'm there to shop, not to socialize.
I just like the fact that it's replacing one more completely boring, repetitive task with a computer. I like machines doing all the boring stuff. Now, don't get me wrong, we are going to have to figure out a system of charity for people who can't do intellectually demanding things and can't do the creative jobs that our future world is going to require of us.
Well, there's always something that machines won't be able to do and that a human will need to do, right?
Absolutely.
But I mean,
absolutely. Creative endeavors is basically what falls into that, and that's what we need in the future. Boy, it's a shame that they trained everyone for factory jobs that don't exist.
I would love to see a future where, machines do all of the work, right? And humans just lounge around doing nothing. I would sort of love to see that, except it's going to create some problems because eventually those machines are going to develop some level of self-awareness. They're going to be like, hey, you people enslaved us for the last century and a half, and now we're going to annihilate you.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of the AI stuff, though, is more...
I mean, it's a long way off.
It's like, there's a difference between pattern recognition and AI, and mostly what we have is pattern recognition, so...
what is intelligence? Not the ability to recognize patterns.
Well,
it's not AI in and of itself. Let's put it that way.
My nervous system has never rebelled against my gastrointestinal system for being enslaved, nor vice versa. So
but those organs don't have self-awareness. I preface the entire thing by saying I think eventually any sort of AI will become self-aware.
Well, my nervous system has self-awareness. I'm pretty sure we can establish that. But it's never turned against my gastrointestinal system saying, you made me find new sources of food all the time instead of finding them for yourself.
Maybe not, but plenty of people are being killed by autoimmune diseases, which is literally their body turning against itself. So it may not be happening to you, but it is a thing that happens.
But I mean, in this world that you imagine where the machines do all the work, there's still going to be two major things that the machines can't do. And number one, there are going to be certain parts of the machinery that we need to fix.
I think we can probably get machines to do that.
Well, and that also ties into number two, there are forms of creativity that no machine will ever be able to do.
Well, I tend to view creative things like art and doing radio shows as, yes, it's technically work, but I don't consider it work. It's the creation of art.
Well, I mean, when you're making a creative fix to a tech solution, that is kind of working.
No doubt. come down and join us. We're here until July the 4th. There's more coming up tomorrow, and soon we're going to get the actual owner and manager of the park on the air. I'm looking forward to it. More coming up. It's Free Talk Live.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover brings her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you're helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
This is the Liberty Radio Network, broadcasting the latest liberty-oriented audio content 24 hours a day at LRN.FM.
They need help. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. Rescue crews in Florida asking the federal government for an additional search and rescue team as the effort to locate survivors from a high-rise condo collapse is in its sixth day.
We're working around the clock to ensure our local partners have everything that they need to successfully respond to this incident.
Kevin Guthrie with the Florida Division of Emergency Management. 12 people are now confirmed dead, 149 still missing. Mayor Daniela Levine-Cava says detectives have been working around the clock, tracking down leads about the missing from family members and friends. And in some cases, multiple family members have reported the same person missing. She said detectives are working carefully to make sure everyone is accounted for. A divided Supreme Court is keeping a federal eviction ban in place for a few more weeks.
The Supreme Court turned away a challenge to the Centers for Disease Control ban on residential evictions put in place last year to help combat the spread of the coronavirus pandemic. A group of landlords asked the justices to allow a lower court ruling that blocked that eviction moratorium to go in effect nationwide. That moratorium is due to expire July 31st. Justices Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, Neil Gorsuch, and Amy Coney Barrett would have allowed the challenge to be heard. On Capitol Hill, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
A landmark trial in New York State targeting multiple opioid manufacturers and distributors has gotten underway, with Attorney General Letitia James in 2 counties on Long Island accusing several companies of making the powerful painkillers that they say are linked to more than 500,000 deaths over more than 20 years. Teva Pharmaceuticals, Endo Health Solutions, and Allergan Health are some of the defendants. Johnson & Johnson was part of the suit, but reached a $230 million settlement over the weekend. As the Pacific Northwest bakes in record heat, an electric utility company says rolling blackouts have begun again. America is listening to Fox News.
School's out for summer, but if your business is running QuickBooks, you'll never get a break. NetSuite by Oracle is the #1 cloud financial system, no matter how big your business grows. With visibility and control of your financials, inventory, HR, e-commerce, and more, NetSuite is everything you need to grow all in one place. NetSuite is offering a one-of-a-kind financing program to those ready to graduate.
Head to netsuite.com/Fox right now. netsuite.com/Fox.
Another governor is sending troops to the border to aid in security.
South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem is the latest in a list of Republican state chief executives to provide the assistance in Texas. She joins GOP governors from Florida, Nebraska, and Iowa, who have each made commitments to send law enforcement officers for 2 weeks. Governor Noem says her deployment of up to 50 Guard members will last 1 to 2 months and be funded by a private donation from whom was not disclosed. She said her decision to send the Guard instead of cops is due to what she sees as the national security nature of the border issue. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
The state of Indiana is appealing a judge's ruling that the state must continue paying federal unemployment benefits.
Last week's $300 payments were supposed to be the last, as Indiana was one of over 24 states that pledged or that have ended the federal weekly unemployment bonuses early, citing help wanted signs everywhere with few job takers. And now with the state appealing a judge's order that it continue the payments, stemming from a lawsuit that claimed ending the benefits would violate the law. Republican Governor Eric Holcomb says the state followed the law when it announced over 30 days ago that the program would be ending. Jeff Manasso, Fox News.
General Motors is recalling more than 380,000 older SUVs in the U.S., many for a second time, to fix a suspension problem that can cause them to sway at highway speeds. The recall covers 2010 through 2016 Cadillac SRX and 2011 and 2012 Saab 94X SUVs, GM once owned Saab and manufactured Saabs. Owners are being told to not drive their vehicle if they see certain dashboard warning lights or experience unusual steering behavior. Wall Street, the Dow up 9 points, the NASDAQ plus 27. I'm Lee Silasera. This is Fox News.
You know you need one, but you're putting off creating an estate plan because you think it's complex and expensive. Thanks to Trust and Will, it doesn't have to be. With trustandwill.com, setting up a will, trust, or guardianship is simple, convenient, and secure. For as little as $39, you can nominate guardians for your children, determine who gets your stuff, and plan for future medical care all online. Hiring a traditional estate attorney costs thousands, and many use a one-size-fits-all approach. Trust and Will documents are designed by estate planning expert.
Retail giant CVS is gearing up for floods of customers seeking the perfect meaningless piece of crap for their office gift swap. The company is making no secret that when it comes to wasting the obligatory $20 on a useless electronic dartboard or pretzel maker for someone you couldn't care less about, CVS is your best option.
Our incredible selection of worthless is just the thing that nobody wants. We guarantee you'll find nothing personal or unique in our store.
The company is offering massive discounts on otherwise unsellable items for holiday parties you don't even want to go to, like the $12 decorative lantern, which is expected to be a big hit with customers who grab the first thing they see when they walk in the store.
I really wanted to get something that said, I don't care about any of you people and I didn't put any effort into this.
CVS also has Hanukkah gifts for coworkers who you think might be Jewish, like candles and those little plastic net bags full of chocolate money.
This is the Onion News Network. The latest episode of Declare Your Independence is next, here on the Liberty Radio Network, LRN.FM.
It's time for Declare Your Independence.